Chapter 1443. Jianghu shuddered and her lips turned pale. She quickly put down the teapot. Grandpa Chun, I shouldn't have said so much. Xuanhuan, this has nothing to do with you. Bailey Jun looked at her and felt sorry for her. He immediately softened his tone. However, in his eyes, there was still anger that had not been extinguished. I just think that Rongxiu has gone too far. Back then, when you followed him to the academy, he didn't take care of you at all. Later, he just left you alone in Lingxiao College. Didn't he think about how much trouble a young girl like you would encounter in such a strange place? I thought that he was cold and indifferent, so I didn't care. But now, what is this? He's helping someone else train a disciple. He personally trained her and even lived together in Jianghu Mountain. Even Jiang Jiwan didn't receive such treatment. What right did Chuyu, who came out of nowhere, have? Even if he doesn't like you, he shouldn't treat you so differently. This makes you. How could Jiang Jiwan put her face in front of others? Jiang Jiwan lowered her head and said in a low voice. Brother Rongxiu has his own considerations. Please don't blame him. Bailey Jun looked at her and felt even worse. Jiang Jiwan grew up by his side. When had she ever suffered so much? Now that she had been expelled from Lingxiao College, Chuyu could persuade the entire academy to support him. How could she feel good? Xuanhuan, don't worry. Grandpa will definitely stand up for you this time. Bailey Jun said and stood up. Jiang Jiwan was shocked and looked up at him in surprise. 2 drops of tears were still hanging in the corners of her eyes. Grandpa Chun, what are you doing? Bailey Jun snorted coldly. Going to Lingxiao College. Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat. Even Elder Yu Jingzuan, who was standing below, was somewhat dazed. He almost thought that he had misheard. Patriarch Yu, are you serious? Bailey Chun walked out of the room and glared at him coldly. Do I look like I'm joking with you? Elder Yu Jingzuan broke out in a cold sweat. How could that be? This is not appropriate. But clan leader Lingxiao College didn't send an invitation to our Yuntian Tower. It's not easy to go. Bailey Jun didn't care at all and sneered. What's wrong? I've been in seclusion for a few years. Now, I'm not even qualified to go to Lingxiao College? No, that's not what I meant. Elder Yu Jingzuan's blood froze. He hurriedly explained in a panic. It's just that this matter involves a lot of things. Many first-class families will definitely go to Fangzhou City. When they gather, no one can say for sure what will happen. You've just come out of seclusion, and there are many things in Yuntian Tower that you need to deal with personally. Even if he used his toes to think, he would know that that place was about to become a battlefield. Why would he go there at this time? However, Bailey Jun didn't take his objection to heart. He waved his hand. For the past few years, I've been in seclusion and didn't get involved in the affairs of Yuntian Tower. I don't see anything happening. Now that I've been away for a few days, what can I do? You don't have to follow me, I'll go there alone. Although Bailey Jun hadn't been in seclusion for long, he had accumulated too much dissatisfaction and resentment towards Rongxiu in his heart. Power, status, dignity. Everything that once belonged to him had now been taken away by Rongxiu. Not only did he want to avenge Jiang Jiwan, but he also wanted to make a show of force. He had to make Rongxiu understand that he, Bailey Jun, was not dead yet. Seeing that he seemed to have made up his mind, Elder Yu was speechless for a moment and didn't know what to do. Grandpa Chun, I'll go with you. Jiang Jiwan finally reacted and hurriedly followed him. Bailey Jun looked at her disapprovingly. That place is very messy, what are you going to do there? You haven't fully recovered from your injuries yet, so during this time, just stay in Yuntian Tower. On one hand, he was worried about Jiang Jiwan's health and didn't want her to go back and forth. On the other hand, Jiang Jiwan had been expelled from Lingxiao College. Although he could ignore this matter, it didn't mean that others could. It was easy to imagine what would happen if Jiang Ziyuan were to appear there again. It was inevitable that she would be mocked and ridiculed. Jiang Jiwan keenly caught the look on Bailey Jun's face. She had been by his side for many years and could read his mind the best. Therefore, at this moment, she directly guessed Bailey Jun's many concerns. This immediately made her feel uncomfortable all over. Expelled, she was no longer a student of Lingxiao College. Furthermore, he had been chased out in such a disgraceful manner. It wasn't easy for her to escape from the Liang family's pursuit and those people's mocking eyes. It was indeed not a wise choice to go back now. However, she really didn't want to miss out on this good show. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Jiwan's eyes lit up. Grandpa Chun, how about I change my identity and go with you? Bailey Jun was stunned. Respected Elder Yu Jing frowned. I'm afraid that's not appropriate. If they were found out, it was fine if Jiang Jiwan was embarrassed, but if the entire Yuntian Tower was implicated, how would it end? Although Elder Yu had deep ties with the Tomb of Immortal Water, he wasn't completely brainless. No matter what, the Yuntian Tower was their foundation. If the Yuntian Tower's reputation was ruined, or even worse, as an elder, he would bear the brunt of it. However, at this moment Bailey June spoke. It's not impossible, but you have to promise that you won't reveal your identity when the time comes. Jianghu immediately agreed happily. Yes. Chapter 1444. After discussing the meeting with Elder Bo Yen and the others, Chu Liyue returned to Mount Pingmin and entered the tower again. This time, Chu Liyue's reason was simple: to nourish her body. The Millennium Frost Jade bed on the second floor was extremely effective for nourishing the body. Seeing her return, Elder Meng naturally thought that she was here for this. He agreed without hesitation. Elder Bo Yen and the others were hesitant at first, but seeing that Elder Meng's attitude towards her seemed to be good, they were relieved. They could more or less see that Chu Liyue did not go to Mount Pingmin to suffer. With Elder Meng taking care of her, nothing else was worth mentioning. Rongxiu did not follow her back. Instead, he returned to Mount Jiuheng and was busy with something. It was quiet and empty all around. Chu Liyue sat cross-legged on the Millennium Frost Jade bed. Her eyes were closed as she cultivated quietly. She could even hear her own heartbeat clearly. The surrounding force of heaven and earth constantly flowed into her body, circling in the water droplets and spreading to her limbs and bones. This force nourished her muscles, bones, flesh and blood little by little. The damage caused by the failure of the breakthrough was also gradually recovering. Her body was tough to begin with, and her recovery ability was astonishing. If it were anyone else, it would take at least 2 to 3 months to fully recover from the injuries caused by this situation. But for her, she was almost fully recovered in just a few days. Of course, Rongxiu's help was indispensable. As Chu Liyue cultivated, she silently sorted out the recent events in her heart. She had no dealings with the Black Demon Cave. The only thing she had a connection with was that strange soul. It was the one that had been deposited in Xuanhuan's body back then. That person was indeed from the Black Demon Cave, but the last time they confronted each other outside Fang Province City, he had admitted that he had left the Black Demon Cave. Now he had nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave. Where did this brilliance come from? What Chu Liyue cared most about was the Heavenly Square Cauldron. Back then she had obtained the Heavenly Square Cauldron in the Empire of Yaoqin. Very few people knew about this. She knew that this thing was not simple, so she had always been very careful and did not dare to take it out easily. Even the last time in the northern wilderness she did not use the real Heavenly Square Cauldron. Who was the one who spread the news? Chu Liyue could not figure it out. Since she could not figure it out, after struggling for a while, Chu Liyue decided to give up. In any case, in a few days in Fangzhou City, everything would be revealed. The most important thing now was to increase his strength as soon as possible. Beginner stage, against those people it would be an easy death. In the world of God. In all these years he had never seen anyone succeed in making 2 breakthroughs in such a short period of time. He's courting death. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1445. This divine power was snatched from Taizu of the Northern Underworld. Chu Liyue had always thought that she would not be able to completely integrate it before she reached the God Realm. But now, such a shocking scene had actually happened. And it looked so easy and simple. Chu Liyue subconsciously held her breath. She could feel that the divine power had already integrated into her Yuan meridian and blood. And it was this blessing that caused Chu Liyue's aura to soar. She was only 1 step away from the middle stage of the 9th rank. She closed her eyes, but the waves in her heart could not be calmed down for a long time. What was this place? And where did this terrifying pressure come from? Most importantly, why was everything here helping her so naturally? Countless thoughts flashed through Chu Liyue's mind. Because of the arrival of the first-rate families and clans outside, the atmosphere in the entire academy was very tense. Many students had spontaneously gathered at Qingming Square. There were also some who chose to stay in their own places, silently waiting for things to develop. On a steep mountain peak, Luo Yanming and Luo Yanlin were facing each other. A huge, translucent chessboard hung between the two of them. Streaks of silver light outlined the chessboard. It was scattered all over the place. It looked like half of the chessboard was already down. Luo Yanming crossed his arms and frowned. He stared at the chessboard in front of him, seemingly in a difficult position. He had been in this position for 15 minutes. Luo Yanlin, on the other hand, looked much more relaxed. He was relaxed and patiently waiting. Time passed slowly, and beads of sweat gradually appeared on Luo Yanming's forehead. He raised his arm and tried to make a move, but at the critical moment, he hesitated and retreated. He wavered. Finally, after about 7 or 8 minutes, he smiled bitterly in dejection. "Fourth brother, I lost." Luo Yanlin waved his wrist, and the chessboard quickly shrank until it condensed into a thin, translucent piece of paper the size of a palm. That thing flew to Luo Yanming. He was stunned for a moment before receiving it with both hands. "Go back and study it." Luo Yanlin walked over and patted him on the shoulder. "Your comprehension is not bad. You should be able to solve it in half a month." Luo Yanming's lips moved and he smiled helplessly. "I'm useless. I've disappointed you." Compared to ordinary people or even most Shen master cultivators, he could be considered as one of the best. But compared to the truly top figures, he was very clear that he was lacking. This talent was something that could not be caught, no matter what. Luo Yanlin laughed. "My level is higher than yours to begin with. If you win, where will your fourth brother's face go? Besides, talent alone is not enough to become a powerhouse. Yanming, you must remember this. Heaven rewards the diligent." Luo Yanming took a deep breath and nodded her head. "Fourth brother." As he spoke, he carefully put away the item in his hand. "Fourth brother, are you too to finish playing to play?" Aziz possessed to him. She was originally here to accompany him to watch the battle today, but when she heard that there was a commotion outside the academy, she left. Luo Yu, how's the situation outside?" Luo Shishir saw that Luo Yanming's face was a little pale and knew that they must have lost the game. Fortunately, Luo Yanming had experienced this too many times since she was young and was already used to it. Hence, she recovered after a while. Luo Shishir retracted her gaze and frowned slightly. "The situation is not very good." Then she briefly recounted what had happened outside. Actually, her knowledge was limited. After all, she was not at the scene. She could only find out a little. Anyway, both sides are in a stalemate now. I'm afraid it's hard to say what will happen next. Luo Shishir was worried and confused. Why did these people have to find trouble with Chuyu all of a sudden? It was his own luck that he was able to obtain this opportunity. What did it have to do with others? In any case, these people were influential figures in the first-rate clans. Wouldn't they feel ashamed if they were to force a young man like this? Luo Yanlin could not help but laugh after hearing this. "Don't worry. This farce will definitely be loud but small in the end. We'll turn big things into small things and small things into nothing. That kid. Nothing will happen to him." Luo Shishir was stunned and quickly asked, "Fourth brother, how did you know?" "I saw that those people's formation was really big." Luo Yanlin saw her reaction and immediately became unhappy. Although he already knew that his sister liked that brat, seeing her so worried as an elder brother, he more or less had some thoughts in his heart. He snorted lightly and walked to the stone bench at the side to sit down. He poured himself a cup of tea and said, "That kid's life is very tough. Who can do anything to him?" In these few months in the academy, Chuyu had encountered quite a lot of trouble, right? There were a few times when his life was on the line and he was surrounded by danger. In the end, wasn't he still alive and well? And he was constantly getting stronger at a terrifying speed. If it was anyone else, they would have died long ago. But this kid was always able to survive. He could see now that he could not use normal eyes to look at Chuyu. Besides, now that Elder Bo Yen and Rong Xiao are speaking up for him, it's obvious that they want to support him. With Lingxiao College and Yuntian Tower as his backing, those people won't dare to act recklessly. Whether it was Lingxiao College or Yuntian Tower, they were not to be trifled with. Not to mention that they had joined forces and stood on the same side now. As long as those people were not crazy, they would not completely offend these two forces for Chuyu. When Luo Shishir heard this, she also felt that it made sense. Fourth brother is right. Those people only came because they missed the primordial north and were jealous of Chuyu's situation. If you ask me, the person who instigated this matter behind the scenes has ill intentions, and those who followed the crowd are even more stupid. Offending Lingxiao College and Yuntian Tower because of such a trivial matter without any evidence was really not worth it. They thought that by joining forces they could share the blame equally, but they did not know that revenge was a dish best served cold. After knowing Rong Xiao for so long, he had never seen Rong Xiao stand up for someone like this. He would definitely remember today's grudge. By the way, Rong Xiao said that he was related to Chuyu? He had always been curious about this point. Now that Rong Xiao had admitted it, he naturally had to study it carefully. Luo Shishir's expression was a little strange. He said, "immediate family," but he didn't say anything else. Luo Yanlin touched his chin and pondered for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was a little erratic. I've never heard that Rongxiu's mother gave birth to a younger brother for him. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Even among the elders of the academy, there were only a few people who had the qualifications to observe. The Heaven Scroll has always been sealed within the academy. It is impossible for outsiders to see it. Then how did Chuyu know? Elder Bo Yen muttered in shock. Elder Hua Feng smiled bitterly. He said that he saw it by chance in a deserted cave. At first he did not pay much attention to this statement. However, when he confirmed that the Xian formation was recorded in the Heaven Scroll, the suspicion in his heart instantly exploded. Because the Xian formations in the Heaven Scroll definitely could not be outside. It was even more impossible for it to be carved in some random cave. Where did Chuyu find out about the Xian formation? The reason was a mystery. His explanation at that time was obviously a lie. If it wasn't because this matter was too shocking, he wouldn't have chosen to look for Elder Bo Yen at this time. Elder Bo Yen rubbed his forehead. Could it be? Could it be that Rongxiu taught him? Rongxiu had gone to see the Heaven Scroll before. There are hundreds of Xian formations recorded in the Heaven Scroll. When Rongxiu went in, he only saw 2 or 3 at most, right? How could it be so coincidental that he bumped into this one? Elder Hua Feng let out a long sigh. How could he not think of such a possibility? However, this kind of speculation was simply too illusory. Chuyu obviously knew that the Xian formation was extraordinary. Otherwise, why would he try to get other explanations? If Elder Hua Feng hadn't happened to see it, this matter would never have been discovered. The two of them looked at each other and fell into deep thought. Chuyu obviously had a big secret on him. Dang dang dang. A series of hurried footsteps could be heard. An elder came over to urge him. Bo Yen, it's time. We should go out. They waited below for a long time but didn't see Elder Bo Yen coming down, so they could only come up and ask. He turned his gaze and saw Elder Hua Feng. Hua Feng, you're here too? Elder Bo Yen nodded and his expression had returned to normal. I'm coming. As he spoke, he lifted his foot and walked down. When he brushed past Elder Hua Feng, the two of them looked at each other without batting an eyelid. Hua Feng, you should follow as well. Elder Hua Feng suppressed the emotions in his heart. Even if there was really something, it was too late to investigate now. Let's take it one step at a time. If it really didn't work out, he would wait until the matter outside was resolved and come back to ask Chuyu properly. In Rongxiu, Fangzhou City. In the center of the city there was a huge circular square. This square was paved with black and white jade stones, and there was a huge teleportation array in the middle. On the teleportation array, there was a totem of Lingxiao College engraved on it. Without a doubt, this was the totem of Lingxiao College. And this teleportation array was also used by Lingxiao College's students and elders. It was just that in normal times, the people of the Spirit Firmament Academy rarely used this teleportation array. After a long time, it gradually became deserted. As a result, very few people came to this square. But today the huge square was bustling with noise and excitement. Lingxiao College had already divided the square into different areas according to the invitations that were sent out. The major clans and families each occupied a place, and in the end they formed a circle. Of course, because they were worried about causing misunderstandings, not many people came. The smallest number was 3 to 5, and the largest number was about 10 people. But there were nearly 20 families that arrived today, so overall there were quite a number of people. Under the guidance of the Lingxiao College's elders and students, everyone took their seats. Elder when she looked at the empty main seat, and a hint of hesitation and worry flashed across his eyes. It was already time. Why hadn't Bo Yen and the others arrived yet? Suddenly the sound of something breaking through the air came from behind. At the same time, a deep laughter spread throughout the entire square. Ah! It's so lively here. Everyone raised their heads and looked over. When they saw who it was, they were all shocked. Why is the Yuntian Tower's patriarch, Bailey Jun, here? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. It doesn't look like anything special. However, out of caution, Elder Wensi still asked a question. May I know who this is? This is Little Lu. He came with me on this trip. You don't need to care about him, he can just stand behind this old man. Bailey Jun waved his hand as if he didn't care. Elder Wensi heaved a sigh of relief. It seems that he's just a follower and not an important person. You're welcome. We have spare chairs here. It's just a small matter to add one for this person. As he spoke, Elder Wensi gave his subordinate a look. There weren't many important seats, but there were many ordinary chairs. The other families all had seats, so how could they let this young man stand alone? The chair was quickly moved over and added to the left side of Bailey June. Bailey June laughed, and the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes deepened. Little Lu, why aren't you thanking Elder Wensi? The young man immediately responded and thanked him respectfully. Thank you, Elder Wensi. Strange, I just added a chair for this young man. Why do I feel that Bailey June's mood and attitude are obviously better? Elder Wensi muttered in his heart. Maybe it's because he feels that he's valued? After all, this young man is my man. Besides, there are so many people in Yuntian Tower, but Bailey June brought this young man here. It's obvious that he likes him. It's always right to take care of him. Elder Wensi suppressed the doubts in his heart and smiled widely. Patriarch Bailey, please take a seat. Bo Yen and the others should be out soon, and Rong Xiu, crack. A sound suddenly came from the side. Everyone looked up in unison. Not far away, the huge enchantment outside the Spirit Firmament Academy had a crack. A few figures flew out from it. It was Elder Bo Yen and the others. Elder Wensi and the others heaved a sigh of relief. They're finally here. The atmosphere in the hall also became strange. Those who had not had the time to sit down greeted Elder Bo Yen and the others. At this moment, everyone was very polite. Elder Bo Yen also had a smile on his face. No matter what, he had to put on a show. Elder Wensi came over to remind him. Patriarch Bailey is here too. What? Elder Bo Yen was shocked. He looked in the direction he pointed and saw Bailey June. Isn't he in seclusion? Why did he come out and even come here? Elder Bo Yan's mind raced, but the smile on his face deepened. Ah, Patriarch Bailey, what a distinguished guest. Why are you free today? I don't know if Rong Xiu knows, why didn't he mention it? Bailey June cupped his hands and smiled. This old man came suddenly. Elder Bo Yen won't blame me, right? Why would I? Your presence brings light to Fangzhou City. Ah, please take a seat. The two of them exchanged a few more pleasantries. On the square, it was a scene of joy and harmony. Finally, a somewhat abrupt voice sounded, breaking this thin layer of illusion. Elder Bo Yen, we're all here, why hasn't Chuyu appeared yet? Could it be that so many of us are here, but we still can't get him to come? Digression. It doesn't seem good to let everyone wait alone. It got dark early yesterday. So I'll update 4 times today and 6 times tomorrow. I'll try to update at noon together. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. If something was really involved and the matter was blown out of proportion, wouldn't it be even harder to clean up? Let's talk about this in private. Bailey June did not ask any more questions. How dare the Yuntian Tower show up again? On the other side, Liang Xiaoxiao, who was sitting in her seat, could not help but curse softly. They are really shameless. Liang Yi glanced at her and his face darkened. Bailey June is the head of the family. Why wouldn't he dare to come? If it were someone else, he might have gone up and argued with them. However, it was Bailey June. Don't you know how important Jianghu is to him? Maybe the Yuntian Tower was willing to help Jianghu this time because of his instructions. She had thought it was strange before, but now that she saw Bailey June, all her doubts were resolved. Bailey June treated Jianghu like his own granddaughter and had always doted on her. This was something that many people knew. It was also because of this that Liang Xiaoxiao was willing to interact with Jianghu and get closer to her after entering the academy. Otherwise, with her status as the legitimate daughter of the Liang family, why would she be willing to get close to Jianghu? However, she did not expect Jianghu to be so disappointing. Not only was she expelled from Lingxiao College, but she was also implicated in her third brother's death. Liang Xiaoxiao now hated her to the core. I really don't know if the head of the Bailey family still values that bitch after this series of events. Liang Yi did not comment. That's enough. Keep it down. There were so many people here. Some things were not good to say after all. If someone heard it, it would be troublesome. Liang Xiaoxiao could only grit her teeth and endure. When Chuyu came out, she must get to the bottom of it. Outside Pingmin Mountain, Elder Wanzheng and Rong Xiu were waiting for Chu Luiyue to come out. They had been waiting since early this morning. The Donghuang bell had been rung, but there was still no movement in the tower. Logically speaking, even if you were inside, you should be the one who heard the bell. Elder Wanzheng glanced at the sky. It has been a while. Why is Chuyu still not out? Could it be that something has delayed him? He was a little uneasy. Although Chuyu was a naughty child, he was usually very sensible when it came to important matters. Why was he late for no reason now? Rong Xiao at the side narrowed his eyes. A faint light flashed across his eyes. Wanzheng. Where is Chuyu? Elder when she hurried over. Seeing the two people waiting, his heart was hanging in the air. You still inside? Elder Wanzheng nodded. I don't know why. There has been no movement. But everyone outside is already here. Elder when she wiped the sweat on his forehead. If it was someone else it would be fine. But those people were not to be trifled with. How could they keep waiting? Moreover, Bo Yen had gone out. Chuyu was a junior student and the focus of everyone's debate. How could he not appear? If he went too late, those people might use this as an excuse. Didn't you ask Elder Meng? Elder Meng had been guarding inside. He should know Chuyu's current situation the best. Elder Wanzheng frowned. Not yet. Then, Elder when she wanted to go forward. He could not delay any longer. Elder Meng has always been a strategist. He should know the importance of today's matter. Until now he has not let Chuyu out. He must have his own reasons. Rong Xiao at the side suddenly said. His voice was low and sweet. It was as calm as usual. Elder when she's footsteps paused. For a moment he was in a dilemma. Rong Xiao's words were not without reason. If there really was something, it was useless to rush him. But, could it be that they really had to wait like this? It won't be long before those people outside start making a ruckus, right? The waiting time was particularly unbearable. Finally, when she finally could not hold back and wanted to rush forward, the enchantment outside Pingmin Mountain suddenly rippled. A slender and tall figure walked out from the gate of the tower. It was Chu Luiyue. He's out. Elder Wanzheng was very happy. He quickly waved at Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw these people. She quickly rushed over. Swish. The next moment her figure was like lightning. She instantly appeared in front of them. Elder when she heaved a sigh of relief. Chuyu, you finally came out. If you didn't come out, this old man would have barged in. Chu Luiyue blinked and smiled. Sorry, I took a little more time to break through. I didn't take too long, right? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1449. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd fell silent for a moment. Elder Wensi looked at Chu Luiyue in shock and found that her aura was much stronger than before. You broke through? He murmured in disbelief. Didn't this kid say that she was in poor health a few days ago? At that time, Elder Meng was also very worried, which made him worry for a few days. But in the blink of an eye, not only did her injuries heal, but she also broke through? Because Chu Luiyue had the Yuan device left by Dugu Mabao to hide her aura, even if she was standing in front of them, Elder Wensi and the others couldn't sense her current realm. Chu Luiyue said with some embarrassment. I just broke through to the middle stage of rank 9. Actually, she could continue to break through. Inside the tower, she seemed to have once again entered that mysterious state. The surrounding heaven and earth force flowed into her body and merged into her bones and blood at an extraordinary speed. The whole process was natural and smooth. Chu Luiyue's mind was firm, and no accidents happened this time. She naturally broke through to the middle stage of rank 9. After that, her body's devouring of the origin power didn't stop there. Chu Luiyue knew very well that if she continued to cultivate like that, she could basically break through to the peak of rank 9 smoothly. On one hand, she had the Tianjing Yuan Meridian now and was very talented. On the other hand, she had the memories and experience in this area. She could break through directly without the guidance of others. However, after thinking for a moment, she still chose to stop. Every cultivator had the heart to become stronger, and Chu Luiyue was no exception. However, she had always been very cautious in this aspect. Recently, she had been feeling that her breakthrough speed was a little too fast. Even if it was mainly because she had encountered many unexpected opportunities in the middle, she was still very cautious. The corner of Elder Wensi's mouth twitched. Do you think that's the right word to say? However, looking at Chu Luiyue's sincere face, he couldn't say anything to refute. This kid is a freak. Didn't he already know about it from the day he entered the school? On the other hand, Elder Wanzheng quickly accepted this fact. As expected of my disciple. Very outstanding. Elder Wensi faintly glanced at him. Could the filter not be so thick? Even if something strange happened to your disciple, I'm afraid you'd think it was normal. Rong Xiao was the calmest. For the past few days she had stayed in Pingmin Mountain, and he knew that she wanted to try to break through again. This was not a difficult task for her to begin with. However, what surprised him was that she actually did not break through to the peak of the 9th stage, and even, probably because there's not enough time, Rong Xiu's eyebrows twitched. Forget it, forget it. Let's not talk about this for now. It's getting late. Those people are already waiting outside. Let's hurry over. Elder Wensi reacted and hurriedly urged. Chu Liwei gently nodded as the corners of his lips curled up. All right. Her eyes were as bright as the stars, and her expression was relaxed as if she did not realize what kind of trouble was waiting for her. Elder Wensi sighed in his heart. No matter what, I must protect this kid. Chu Yu. Just as the few of them were rushing out of the school, a familiar voice was heard. Chu Liwei stopped in his tracks and turned to look. A few people were rushing over from the opposite mountain. Luo Shishir, Luo Yanming, and Zhuosheng were all familiar faces. Most importantly, there was a face that he had not seen for a long time beside them. Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat, and the corners of his lips curled up. Hongyu, why are you here? Although she came out a few days ago, she went directly to the Donghuang Bell Tower. After discussing things with Elder Bo Yen and the others, she went straight back to Pingmin Mountain. No one told her that Mu Hongyu had come to the school. Now that she suddenly saw her, she was naturally very surprised. Mu Hongyu's almond-shaped eyes were also bright, and she quickly rushed forward. She wanted to give Chu Luiyue a big hug, but when she was in front of him, she suddenly remembered that Chu Luiyue was now using another identity, so she quickly stopped in her tracks. However, the joyful look on his face was clearly seen by the surrounding crowd. I've been here for a few days. But you've been staying at Pingmin Mountain all this time, so we haven't seen each other. Mu Hongyu said excitedly as she looked up and down at Chu Luiyue. Have you been well in the past few months in the school? She had heard about those things, so she could not help but worry. Chu Liwei could not help but gently knock her forehead. Do I look like something's wrong? Everyone could see that the two of them were indeed very close. Luo Shishir pursed her lips and her heart ached. She had never seen Chu Yu treat any woman so casually and freely. Mu Hongyu was really different? This kind of Chu Yu was somewhat different from the polite Chu Yu she knew. Luo Yanming glanced at her sister out of the corner of her eye, sighed in her heart, but also breathed a sigh of relief. The onlooker saw more clearly. Chu Yu obviously did not like Luo Shishir, and only treated her as a friend. Now it was best to let her give up before she said anything. Mu Hongyu saw that Chu Liwei could still joke, and her heart calmed down a lot. I knew you would be able to do it. Chu Liwei looked at her and suddenly asked in surprise, You broke through to the 9th level? Yes. Just before I came, I broke through at Qi at home. Mu Hongyu stuck out her tongue. It was Master and the others who sent me here. Chu Liwei immediately understood. It seemed that Diwu Xianxia and the others helped. At the same time of surprise, Chu Liwei could not help but secretly sigh. Mu Hongyu's physique and talent were indeed enviable. She relied on various opportunities to break through to the peak of the 9th level in such a short time. However, Mu Hongyu had only cultivated with Diwu Xianxia and the others in the Red Moon Desert for a few months, and she had also successfully broken through to the 9th level. If this spread out, countless people would be envious. Chu Yu Hongyu, if you want to catch up, why don't you wait first? Elder Wensi could not help but interject. This time, Chu Liwei nodded with a smile. Although she was not afraid of being late, she did not want to put Elder Wensi in a difficult position. You're right. Hongyu, I'll go out first. Wait for me at the academy. Mu Hongyu suddenly took a step forward. Chu Yu, I want to go with you. She vaguely knew what was going on outside and she was very worried. At this time she did not want Lu Yu to face it alone. Even if he just stood next to her, it would be good. Elder Wensi frowned. This is not okay. Chu Liwei nodded gently and agreed to Mu Hongyu's request. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 1450. Chu Liuyue's answer was unexpected. Everyone present was stunned for a moment, almost thinking that they had heard wrongly. That kind of occasion, it was obvious what kind of swords and knives would be. Why did he have to bring someone? Mu Hongyu was very happy and nodded repeatedly. No matter what, she must not watch Lu Yu be bullied. Seeing that Chu Liwei seemed to be determined, Elder Wensi thought for a moment and did not object. It was just one more student, it did not matter. It's fine if you want to go, but Hongyu, don't talk nonsense when you get there, understand? Mu Hongyu covered her mouth and nodded repeatedly. Then let's go. As soon as Elder Wensi finished speaking, he heard Luo Shishir's voice from behind. Master, I'll go too. Shishir? Luo Yanming and Zhuosheng both looked at her in surprise. Fourth brother had already told them that the Luo family was not invited this time and that they should try not to get involved in this matter in the academy. Now Luo Shirshir wanted to go too? Wasn't this nonsense? But Luo Shirshir insisted. She looked at Elder Wensi pleadingly. Master, I promise that I will be honest when I go. I won't say a word. Elder Wensi had a headache. Why did all of them want to go? If they continued to argue like this, there would not be enough time. He made up his mind. Let's go together. In Fangzhou City, on the wide and flat square, there was silence. Everyone was sitting in a circle. At first, they could still exchange a few words with each other, but as time passed, the atmosphere gradually became cold and stagnant. From time to time, people would look in the direction of Lingxiao College. Furthermore, there were some people that had already revealed impatient expressions. If it weren't for Elder Bo Yen and the others holding the fort, they wouldn't have been able to wait any longer. I didn't expect this Chuyu to be so arrogant. A voice sounded in the crowd. It was neither loud nor soft, with a hint of sarcasm. To be the only person in the northern region of the primeval wilderness who has obtained an opportunity is naturally extraordinary. Someone laughed softly, but the laughter was harsh. Elder Bo Yen turned a deaf ear. Wasn't it just a few words? What was there to care about? As long as these people didn't really fight, everything was negotiable. Jin Di, who was sitting at the side, stroked his stubble and finally couldn't help but sneer. I heard that Chuyu is only a rank 9 warrior now, and his extravagance is already so grand. If he broke through to the God realm in the future, wouldn't he be even more powerful? At that time, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to even see him. Some people's faces turned ugly. He was merely a junior, yet he had made so many of them wait here and had yet to show himself. He was truly arrogant. Senior Golden Flute, you're wrong. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1451. Rongxiu chuckled. His thin, scarlet lips curled into a faint smile, but his deep, phoenix-like eyes were still cold. Greetings, Patriarch. He nodded slightly. Although he was saluting, his imposing manner did not diminish at all. Instead, it made him look even more elegant and noble. In front of Bailey June, he did not give in at all. Bailey June's heart sank. After not seeing him for a few years, Rongxiu seemed to be even more difficult to provoke than before. He still remembered how young Rongxiu was when he chose to go into seclusion. In the blink of an eye, that young man had been reborn and grown into a giant. He had underestimated Rongxiu. I wonder when Patriarch came out of seclusion. I didn't receive any news. Rongxiu chuckled. If I knew, I would have come out to welcome you personally. Bailey June suppressed the waves in his heart. It happened 2 days ago. I wanted to send you a message, but then I heard about what happened here, so I decided to come in person. I thought that I would have to meet you anyway, so I didn't bother them. I see. Patriarch, you seem to have made a breakthrough this time? I really have to congratulate you. This sentence finally made Bailey June's expression relax a little. He snorted and the corners of his mouth twitched. It's not as fast as the Saint's rapid progress in the past few years. This was not a polite remark. After he came out of seclusion, he specifically asked Yu Jing and the others some questions. Among them was Rongxiu's current strength. But in fact, Yu Jing and the others did not know much about this. Because in the past few years, Rongxiu did not spend much time in Yintian Tower. And every time he came back, he came and went in a hurry. How did they know? It was nothing more than a rough guess. Even so, it was not difficult to guess Rongxiu's basic strength. Bailey June was shocked. Although he was a little unhappy, he could only accept it. Rongxiu was a once-in-a-thousand-years genius of the Yintian Tower, so it was normal for him to have such a cultivation speed. It was impossible for others to be envious, including him. Rongxiu's gaze swept over the young man beside him, but it was as cold as a knife. Jiang Jiwan's heart tightened. Without raising her head, she could feel Rongxiu's gaze on her, as if he could see right through her. She lowered her head even more guiltily. Her face was disguised and so was her figure. Even her aura was concealed by Bailey June. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any flaws. Who is this? Why haven't I seen you before? Rongxiu asked slowly. Bailey June furrowed his brows. Lil Lu, recently promoted from the bottom. I saw that he had a good aptitude, so I took him with me. There are so many people in the Yuntian Tower, the Holy Sun might not know every one of them, right? Rongxiu suddenly laughed. You're right. To be able to gain your favor, he must not be an ordinary person. Eyes are bad, I didn't notice such a person before. He remembered the entire Yuntian Tower from top to bottom as long as he had seen it before. Even if it was a lowly servant. And this person? Rongxiu sneered and retracted his gaze. Without that oppressive gaze, Xuanhuan breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. A wave of coldness hit her, and only then did she realize that her back was already drenched in cold sweat. She secretly gritted her teeth. Rongxiu only looked at her twice. How could she be so useless? I hope he doesn't notice anything. Jianghu wanted to take the opportunity to look at the face that she had been dreaming of. After all, they had not seen each other for a long time. However, she felt very guilty after hearing Rongxiu's words, so she naturally didn't dare to move. She looked down and stood at the side, not daring to say a single word. Bailey June put on a fake smile. The Holy Sun is busy. Naturally, he has no time to care about these things. There was an undercurrent between the two. Many people around them looked over with complicated expressions on their faces. Their thoughts were running wild. It seems like the two most powerful people in the Yuntian Tower don't have a good relationship? Apparently, when Rongxiu was first found in the Yuntian Tower, this Bailey clan leader was very opposed to him being added to the clan's genealogy. He even suggested twice that Rongxiu be given the harshest punishment. That kind of punishment was unbearable for cultivators with decent strength, let alone Rongxiu, who was only a child at that time. If Rongxiu did not take the initiative to summon the infinite divine dial and test his shocking talent, he would have died there. It was also because of this that Rongxiu and Bailey June's relationship had never been good. Especially now that Rongxiu had so much power in his hands, he could order the entire Yuntian K with just one word. Bailey June no longer had any real power in his hands. He was only left with the empty title of clan leader. Could the two of them see eye to eye? Please rest first. I will go first. Rongxiu seemed to have turned a deaf ear to Bailey June's sarcasm. After politely bowing, he turned around and left. From the beginning to the end, he had his own noble and arrogant aura, but no one could find fault with him. Seeing the tall and slender figure leave, Bailey June felt stifled in his heart. Back then they had planned to directly dispose of Rongxiu. But because he had shown great talent, after much debate they chose to keep him. At that time he actually did not take Rongxiu seriously. Even if his mother was a direct descendant of the Yuntian Tower, his father was of humble birth. With such a background, he was destined to never be able to raise his head in the Yuntian Tower. But later, the development of the situation gradually got out of control. It was not until Rongxiu killed his way out and ascended to the position of the Son of Saint that he realized that he had completely underestimated this young man. But at that time, everything was too late. Therefore he could only accept the fact that Rongxiu had become the Son of Saint. But he still misjudged Rongxiu's ambition and ability. Until this time, when he came out of seclusion, he realized that he had never seen Rongxiu clearly. Everything in the past was just Rongxiu's little tricks. If he had known, he would have killed him back then. But what was the use of regretting it now? Bailey June gritted his teeth, his face grim. On the other side, Rongxiu did not seem to be affected at all, and sat down directly beside Chu Luiyue. Hey Rongxiu, your seat is over here. Elder Bo Yen glanced to the side and pointed to the other side of him as a reminder. Rongxiu leaned back and smiled faintly. It's the same no matter where I sit. Elder Bo Yan's mind turned quickly and he did not insist. Rongxiu really put in a lot of effort for Chu Yu's sake. Chu Luiyue also turned her head. The two of them looked at each other. She blinked slightly. Originally, she and Rongxiu were supposed to sit on either side of Elder Bo Yan, but now he and Elder Bo Yan were sitting on both sides of her. Unknowingly, she was surrounded in the middle like stars surrounding the moon. Was he here to support her? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1452. The surroundings fell silent for a moment. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes, retracted her gaze and looked at the crowd. Sorry for the long wait. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Chu Yu will be honest and tell you everything I know. Her magnanimity stunned the crowd for a moment. She was quite direct. Many people exchanged glances in private. There were so many questions. Which one should they ask first? Who would ask? Chu Luiyue was still smiling, seemingly very patient. She did not intend to waste time with these people. The hesitation at this moment was only because they had their own plans. But in reality, their targeting and suspicion would not reduce because of this. Chu Yu, I have something to ask you. The first to step forward was actually Liang Xiaoxiao. Liang Yi was also shocked and hurriedly gave Liang Xiaoxiao a look. However, Liang Xiaoxiao was determined to speak at this time, and no one could stop her. Chu Luiyue nodded slightly. Senior sister Liang, please ask. Liang Xiaoxiao stared at Chu Luiyue, as if she wanted to dissect her from the inside out. Let me ask you. How did my third brother die in the primeval north region? Xiao. Xianxia could not help but call out to her. This question could be asked in private. Why did she have to ask in public? The people from Lingxiao College were all present. Wasn't she deliberately embarrassing them? Everyone knew that Lingxiao College had always been neutral about this kind of thing. They would never reveal a word in this regard. If the people from Lingxiao College misunderstood, Chu Liwei shrugged and revealed a helpless expression. Sorry, senior sister Liang. You should know the rules of the college. Of course I know. Liang Xiaoxiao did not show any disappointment. Instead, she took half a step forward and continued to ask. I received news that my third brother had asked for help at that time. The elders originally wanted to help, but you stopped them. Is this true or false? As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned for a moment. Then they all looked at Chu Liwei. If this was true then, Chu Yu had an undeniable responsibility for Liang Xiaokang's death. Even Liang Ye had a doubtful look on his face. This news. Where did Xiao hear it from? Why didn't he know about it? But since she asked this question then, it might not be impossible. Jiang Jiwan, who was standing behind Bailey Jun, still had her head down, but she was very focused and heard every word clearly. She pursed her lips. Her hand in her sleeve pinched a corner of her shirt, unconsciously twisting it. I did, Liang Xiaoxiao still asked. It seemed like his father's secret message wasn't completely useless after all. She knew that Liang Xiaoxiao and Liang Xiaokang's relationship was very good. Moreover, she was also an impulsive person. As long as she wanted to sow discord, she could do anything. Now the cannon fire was finally aimed at Chu Yu. Chu Liwei smiled. His expression was calm and there wasn't the slightest ripple in his eyes. Senior sister Liang, I'm just an ordinary student in the academy. What right do I have to command the elders? Aren't you overestimating me? Besides, I don't know your third brother. Why should I do this? Ordinary student? Liang Xiaoxiao sneered in disdain as if she had heard a joke. You actually have the nerve to say that you're an ordinary student? After entering the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, you were trapped. Didn't you rely on your plan to escape safely? At that time, even the elders seemed to rely on you and listen to your words, right? Many people were shocked. Although they knew that Chu Liwei had obtained the inheritance in the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, they didn't know much about what Liang Xiaoxiao said. At this moment, when they suddenly heard it, they were very shocked. The elders all listened to that teenager? This sounded preposterous. But Liang Xiaoxiao's words were so convincing that it didn't seem like she was lying. As if sensing the suspicions of the surrounding people, Liang Xiaoxiao snorted coldly and said, Everyone, you might not know this, but at that time, Jiang Jiwan accidentally killed a nine-tailed blue crow, causing a large number of nine-tailed blue crows to chase after him. In a moment of desperation, they had no other choice and nowhere to escape. In the end, they followed Chu Yu all the way and successfully reached that canyon. Only then were they able to escape safely. As for my third brother, he might have been killed in that canyon. At that time, Chu Yu, of course your opinion was important. It could even influence the elders' decision. Do you dare to admit it? Liang Xiaoxiao was agitated. Her face was flushed red, and her eyes seemed to be burning with anger. Everyone around her was shocked by her words, and it took a long time for them to recover from their shock. Liang Xiaoxiao, you mean? Chu Yu was the one who brought people to the canyon? A middle-aged man suddenly asked. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. If this was true, then didn't that mean Chu Yu knew the location of the canyon from the beginning? Then the implications of this matter were too great. For a moment, countless pairs of doubtful eyes landed on Chu Liwei. Elder Hua Feng and the others looked tense. In fact, they had always been very curious about this point. At that time, Chu Yu's performance did seem like he was very familiar with the northern part of the primordial world. However, Chu Yu did not say much, so they did not ask further. Who knew that Liang Xiaoxiao would actually bring up this point and pointed at Chu Yu? How did she know so much about it? Someone must have told her. Chu Liwei was also thinking about this question. Facing Liang Xiaoxiao's angry questioning, Chu Liwei's reaction was much calmer. She tilted her head and frowned as if she was deep in thought. Liang Xiaoxiao sneered. What? Feeling guilty? Can't you make it up? Chu Liwei shook her head and smiled. No, I'm just thinking, weren't you guys chasing after Jiang Jiwan a while ago? Why are you so biased towards her now? What? Liang Xiaoxiao's expression froze and she did not react for a moment. Chu Liwei blinked and explained patiently with a smile, only a few people know about the situation at that time. And there are even fewer people who are willing to tell you this. Senior Sister Liang, you probably don't know, but at that time, we were actually following Jiang Jiwan's words in the northern part of the primordial world. At that time we had just arrived in the northern part of the primordial world, but we encountered several troubles in a row. After a while we were almost at our wits' end. Fortunately we met Jiang Jiwan later. She happened to escape from a predicament and had been running for a long time. She knew the safest way. Therefore we chose to let her lead the way. As she spoke, Chu Luiyue looked at Shi Rue. Senior Sister Rue, what do you think? Shi Rue curled her lips into a smile. That's right. Although I have never liked Jiang Jiwan, she was the most experienced at that time, so we all chose to listen to her and escape from the northern part of the primordial world. In the end it was Jiang Jiwan who led us. I don't know why. The leader was changed to junior brother Chuyu? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1453. Shi Rue's smile was cold and her tone was sarcastic. I'm afraid that someone is desperately trying to push all the blame onto someone else. Although she did not mention a name, everyone could tell that she was talking about Jiang Jiwan. Liang Xiaoxiao was also stunned. She had only received this news by chance a few days ago, but she did not know who sent it. She had wanted to investigate, but the other party was very secretive. She could not find anything even after a few days of searching, so she had to put it aside for the time being. However, she believed this news very much. Because it was too detailed. She knew that it was most likely someone who had secretly leaked this news. However, she did not expect that it would be Jiang Jiwan. After all, not long ago she and her father had chased after Jiang Jiwan, causing her to panic like a stray dog. In the end, she had no choice but to hide in the Yuntian Tower and did not dare to come out again. Jiang Jiwan must hate them to the core. Why would she take the initiative to say this? However, after hearing Shi Rue's words, Liang Xiaoxiao realized that she was wrong. Jiang Jiwan not only hated them but also hated Chuyu and the school. If he could use this opportunity to viciously attack his enemies, then why not? In the end, Jiang Jiwan only needed to reap the benefits. After coming back to her senses, Liang Xiaoxiao's face turned green and white. She could not help but curse angrily. That be *TC. Most of the people present had no relationship with Jiang Jiwan, so they did not care when they heard this. As for Rong Xiu, his attitude towards Jiang Jiwan had always been as cold as the wind, so he naturally did not take it to heart. The only person who was upset when he heard this was Bailey Jun. However, Liang Xiaoxiao was about to explode in anger. How could she care about Bailey Jun? Besides, the one who was at fault was Jiang Jiwan. Even if Bailey Jun was unhappy, he was in no position to make a scene in front of her. Unbeknownst to her, Jiang Jiwan, who was being insulted by her, was at the scene and had heard everything clearly. Jiang Jiwan's heart was beating violently. Her blood was about to rush out, and her temples were throbbing. If it wasn't for her last bit of rationality, she would have already rushed over and ripped Liang Xiaoxiao's mouth apart. She clenched her fists so hard that her knuckles turned white. With great difficulty he suppressed the emotions in his heart. Wait, these people were all waiting. So, at that time my third brother's death, Liang Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth. So it's still related to her? Was it that bitch who told the elders not to save them? Alright. At that time, didn't Jiang Jiwan admit it herself? At that time, third brother had begged her, but she ignored him? At that time, Jiang Jiwan said that she couldn't persuade the academy elders, so she had no choice but to do so. But now, it was clear that she was the mastermind behind this matter. Chu Luiyue opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, Shi Rue took over. Actually, you can't completely blame Jiang Jiwan for this matter. After all, we couldn't even protect ourselves at that time. How could we have the extra strength to help? Jiang Ziyuan clenched her fists so hard that they almost broke. Shi Rue seemed to be speaking up for her, but in fact she was giving her a hard push. She was determined to kill her. However, no matter how much she wanted to argue, she couldn't open her mouth as she was wearing another face. A sweet and fishy smell surged up. Jiang Jiwan swallowed it. After hearing Shi Rue's words, many people expressed that they were convinced. Although the Meteor sect had a good relationship with Lingxiao College, it wasn't to the extent that they would put in so much effort for one of their students. Shi Rue was young, but she was very experienced in dealing with people and was very bold. Since she had said so, then it should be true. Chu Luiyue glanced at Shi Rue, and the corners of her lips curled up. It felt good to have someone's help. She didn't persuade Zichen to release the legendary three-eyed eagle in vain. That canyon is very dangerous. It's hard to say whether anyone will live or die if they go in. We also suffered a lot when we went in. Shiru tucked her hair behind her ear and said with a smile. I heard that many people here suspect that Chuyu has a very good understanding of the northern territory of the Great Desolate Land. That's why he was able to obtain such a precious opportunity when others were having a hard time surviving. But I wonder if you have any evidence to prove it? The few people from the Meteor sect, including me, have been with them all this time. If Chuyu was really up to something, how could we not know about it? Aren't you looking down on the Meteor sect too much? At the end of her speech, Shiru's tone carried a trace of displeasure and arrogance. Liang Xiaoxiao's arrogance was suppressed, and her expression became somewhat hesitant. Is this true or false? Liang Ye took the opportunity to pull her back. Sit down. How can you say such things without solid evidence? Liang Xiaoxiao could only clench her teeth and sit back down. After going around in circles, the problem still came back to Jiang Jiwan. If she had the chance to meet her, she would definitely teach her a lesson. I'm afraid that we can't come to a conclusion on this matter in such a short time. I think we should change the question. A man who seemed to be in his 30s suddenly spoke. He was wearing a dark purple robe. His cheeks were thin and his facial features were ordinary. Only his eyes seemed to have thorns, and they were exceptionally sharp and deep. Chu Luiyue glanced at him but didn't recognize him. Rong Xiu's voice was heard at this moment. Chapter 1454. Everyone looked over, their eyes full of scrutiny and doubt. Compared to Liang Xiaokang's death, they were more concerned about this. The Black Demon Cave had a bad reputation in the Divine Ruins world. Although they had kept a low profile in recent years, it did not change most people's impression of them. Therefore, when they heard that Chu Luiyue was related to the Black Demon Cave, a string in their minds immediately tightened. Elder Bo Yen and the others also looked over. They still did not know what was going on. If Chu Luiyue could not clarify this issue, she would be attacked by the crowd. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes. She had the aura of the Black Demon Cave on her? She had only exchanged blows with them in the past few times, but had not done anything else. Could it be the so-called aura was left behind because of this? It shouldn't be. She had never heard of anyone being able to leave their opponent's aura on their body while fighting. She said indifferently. Princess Yao, please forgive Chuyu for not knowing what you mean. I did have a dispute with the people of the Black Demon Cave before, but that was all. As for the rest, I don't know what's going on. Elder Wanzheng's expression changed slightly, and he could not help but ask in a low voice. Chuyu, you fought with the Black Demon Cave before? Those are extremely vicious people. If Chuyu ran into them, wouldn't he? Fortunately, he was fine. It was not just Elder Wanzheng. Hearing Chuyu's words, many of the people around felt their hearts beating like a drum. The people of the Black Demon Cave have not come out in recent years. How did you run into them? Yao Bin leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Chu Luiyue. The pressure was extremely strong. Do you have any witnesses or evidence to back up your claims? Witnesses? Evidence? Chu Luiyue could not help but chuckle. Princess Yao, why would I lie about something like this? Did he want her to resurrect xuanhuan? Besides, even if they didn't appear in public, it doesn't mean that they really don't go out, right? As far as I know, the strength of the Black Demon Cave can be considered tyrannical, and the scale of the entire sect is not small. Will they really obediently stay in their own territory and do nothing for the next few years? That was impossible. Yao Bin choked. Oh right, there's one more thing that I need to make clear to everyone. The person who fought with me is no longer a member of the Black Demon Cave. As for who he is, I have no idea. Not a member of the Black Demon Cave? How were they supposed to investigate? Yao Bin suddenly said, Chuyu, my Purple Light County has fought with the Black Demon Cave for many years and can be considered to have some experience. I can confirm that you do have the aura of the Black Demon Cave. If you really have a clear conscience, do you dare to let me investigate? Chu Liyue's eyebrows twitched slightly. Before he could speak, he heard Rong Xiu's soft voice. How does Princess Yao plan to investigate? Yao Bin glanced at Rong Xiu, knowing that he intended to stand up for him. However, if he didn't get to the bottom of this matter, he definitely wouldn't let it go. Their Purple Light County would not easily let go of anyone who was related to the Black Demon Cave. Yao Bin took something from his hand. It was a thumb ring completely carved out of purple jade. It was sparkling and translucent, glossy and shiny. As the light flowed, one could vaguely see something flowing slowly inside. A wave of pressure that could not be ignored spread out from it. This thumb ring can detect the aura of the Black Demon Cave. If there is anything related to the Black Demon Cave in Chuyu's body, it will be forced out. If there is nothing, everything will be normal. As Yao Bin spoke, he looked at Chu Luyue. Chu Yu, do you dare to accept? Although it was somewhat shameful to accept such an investigation in public, there was no doubt that this was the most straightforward way to clear his name. No matter how much he said, it was better to verify his innocence. Chu Luyue pondered for a moment, then nodded. Good. Anyway, she had a clear conscience. What was there to be afraid of? Rong Xiu looked at her. Seeing her determined expression, his thin lips moved slightly, but he did not say anything in the end. Yao Bin stood up, walked to the center and said to Chu Luyue, please come forward. Chu Luyue walked over. The two of them stood still, separated by 10 steps. Yao Bin's expression was much more serious. He raised his hand, then closed his eyes. The thumb ring flew out from his hand, then headed straight for Chu Luyue. Soon it stopped above Chu Luyue's head. Buzz! A roar sounded. Purple light instantly poured down like a waterfall, surrounding Chu Luyue. Chu Luyue's body was completely surrounded by that purple light curtain. In an instant, it was as if countless sharp and cold blades were scraping her body. Chu Luyue frowned slightly. But fortunately the pain was not too intense, so she endured it. Everyone held their breaths and waited. Yao Bin didn't even blink as he stared at the screen. The passage of time seemed to be extraordinarily long. Suddenly, an unusual fluctuation came from Chu Luyue's universe ring. Whoosh! The purple jade thumb ring spun quickly, and the surrounding light curtain formed a whirlpool around Chu Luyue like water, emitting a sharp cry. Yao Bin's expression turned serious. There was indeed something fishy. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Some could no longer hold back and leaned forward, afraid that they would miss something. They would not know if they did not investigate, but once they did, there was really something wrong with Chu Yu. Elder Bo Yin and the others looked at each other and saw the shock and astonishment in each other's eyes. Didn't Chu Yu say that he had nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave? Now, Chu Luyue looked down. A white light suddenly flashed in her mind. Right. How could she forget about the wooden tablet? Some time ago she had come to Fangzhou City with Luo Yinming and Zhuosheng to relax. At that time she had met a middle-aged man at a street stall in the city. That man was the soul that had been chasing her relentlessly. It was also that time that she had obtained a wooden tablet from him. That was the wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave. The totem of the Black Demon Cave was clearly engraved on it. After repelling the soul, she had wanted to destroy the wooden tablet, but after thinking about it again and again, she put it aside for the time being. She did not expect that it would cause her such trouble today. Whoosh! The whistling sound was even sharper. It was as if an invisible force was desperately drilling into the Qianhuan ring in an attempt to force the wooden tablet out. However, even after a long while, the interspatial ring showed no signs of being broken. Yao Bin frowned. How could the defensive power of this universe ring be so strong? Chu Luyue also suddenly thought of this question, and her heart skipped a beat. This was Rong Xiu's universe ring. It was also a symbol of the saint's identity. It was normal for it to be able to resist Yao Bin's power, but in the eyes of others. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1455. Anyone with a brain would have guessed that there was something wrong with the interspatial ring. Chu Luyue's mind raced. Ever since she left the Yuntian Tower, she had disguised the interspatial ring whenever she went out. From the outside it looked just like an ordinary gray interspatial ring. As long as one did not check it carefully, no one would think that the most noble ring of the Yuntian Tower was on her finger. But now the interspatial ring easily intercepted Yao Bin's power. At this time, Yao Bin also noticed that something was wrong. He looked at Chu Luyue with eyes full of suspicion. The interspatial ring on Chu Yu's finger seemed to be unusual. He was slightly angry. He suddenly raised his hand and threw out a divine power. The divine power quickly poured into the purple jade ring. In an instant, its momentum soared. The wind whistled. Chu Luyue stood in the center of the vortex, her clothes fluttering. She almost felt that her body was about to be strangled by the violent power. She made a prompt decision. But a slight sound came out. She calmly removed the power from the interspatial ring and released the wooden tablet at the same time. Whoosh! Everyone only saw something suddenly fly out. Chu Luyue staggered and quietly escaped from the vortex. At the same time she resealed the interspatial ring. There were too many things hidden in it that could not be shown publicly. Yao Bin's figure flashed forward swiftly, and he held the wooden token tightly in his hand. Then he waved his wrist and took back the purple jade ring. The oppressive power disappeared, and Chu Luyue finally breathed a sigh of relief. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. In the eyes of the onlookers, That thing could not withstand the pressure of the purple jade ring and was forced out. Didn't they see that Chu Yu's face was a little pale? However, no one had any other doubts. Except for Yao Bin. He glanced at Chu Luiyue suspiciously. In that instant, his intuition shouldn't be wrong. The ring on Chu Yu's finger was not ordinary, but it indeed only happened in an instant. Looking at Chu Yu now, it didn't seem like it. Could it be that he was wrong? A trace of uncertainty appeared in Yao Bin's heart. Princess Yao, what are you holding in your hand? A question interrupted Yao Bin's thoughts. He calmed down and planned to suppress these things first and talk about it later. The most important thing now was the Black Demon Cave. He glanced at the item in his hand, his expression suddenly became cold. Although he had guessed what it was before, when he saw the totem on the wooden tablet that he hated so deeply, his heart was still filled with endless resentment and anger. He clutched the wooden sign tightly and suddenly looked at Chu Luiyue. Chu Yu, this is the wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave. And its level is quite high. If you really have nothing to do with the Black Demon Cave, why would you have such a thing on you? As soon as he said that, the crowd. Black Demon Cave's wooden tablet? That was not something an ordinary person. Wouldn't this confirm his previous suspicions towards Chu Yu? It's this wooden tablet of the Black Demon Cave, it seems that only their own people have it, right? That's right. A few years ago we fought with the Black Demon Cave and saw their people take out this wooden tablet with our own eyes. This wooden tablet is carved from sea buckthorn wood, and the totem of the Black Demon Cave is engraved in the middle. I heard that every totem was drawn with their own blood as a guide, and no one else can copy it. Moreover, they value this wooden tablet very much. Generally speaking, they would never let it fall into the hands of others. The crowd discussed fervently, clearly suspecting Chu Luiyue. It was as if they were certain that Chu Luiyue was in cahoots with the Black Demon Cave. Elder Bo Yen and the others were also stunned for a moment. Black Demon Cave's wooden tablet? How could that kid have such a thing on him? Elder Bo Yen was stunned for a moment and then looked at Rong Xiu. The two of them had a close relationship. Did Rong Xiu know about this? Unfortunately, Rong Xiu's face was as calm and indifferent as ever, and no clues could be seen. As if sensing Elder Bo Yan's gaze, Rong Xiu glanced sideways, and the corners of his lips curled up imperceptibly, giving Elder Bo Yen a reassuring look. Elder Bo Yen heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that Rong Xiu knew what was going on. He was relieved. At first, he did not believe that Chu Yu had anything to do with the Black Demon Cave. Who did not know that Rong Xiu and the Black Demon Cave were enemies? If Chu Yu really had something to do with the Black Demon Cave, why would Rong Xiu protect him like this? Speaking of which, Rong Xiu was part of the reason why the Black Demon Cave had suddenly stopped in the past few years. However, not many people knew about this, so when the wooden tablet appeared, everyone was full of doubts about Chu Yu. Chu Luiyue coughed a few times. Without the pressure of the external force, her complexion looked better. However, her lips were still slightly pale, and it was not difficult to tell what kind of pain she had just experienced. Chu Luiyue looked at the wooden tablet and smiled helplessly. So this is what you're talking about? She rubbed her eyebrows. Have you forgotten? I said just now that I fought with their people. This wooden tablet was obtained at that time. Yao Bin did not believe it. So simple? I don't think so. Everyone in the Black Demon sect has a wooden tablet like this. In other words, this is a symbol of their status. The stronger they are, the higher their level, the more importance they attach to the wooden tablet. The one in my hand must be a famous existence in the Black Demon sect. To be more direct, it must be a high god expert at the very least. Such a person, as long as they still have a breath left, would never let this wooden tablet fall into the hands of others, especially their enemies. You said that you obtained this thing at that time. Doesn't this mean that you killed a high god expert of the other party? Yao Bin twitched the corner of his mouth, and the lines on his thin face were cold and hard. Who would believe this? There was dead silence. It was not difficult to deduce that Chu Yu should have this wooden tablet before he entered the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation. After he returned, he had been staying in Lingxiao College and had no chance to obtain this thing. When he entered the northern region of the Eldritch Desolation, he seemed to be a rank 8 warrior. With such strength, killing a high god expert, it was not a fool's dream? However, in the face of Yao Bin's questioning, Chu Luiyue's face did not show the slightest bit of panic. She laughed and her tone was still calm. Princess Yao seems to have forgotten one thing. I just said that the person who fought with me has already left the Black Demon sect. So this thing should not be that important to him, right? Yao Bin was stunned and the rest of his words were stuck in his throat. Yes, Chuyu did say that. But at that time he did not care. If that person was really no longer a member of the Black Demon sect, this wooden tablet would naturally become a piece of trash, not worth mentioning. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1456. Yao Bin stared at Chu Luiyue as if he wanted to see through all her thoughts. At present there were two possibilities. Firstly, Chu Yu had long known the importance of this wooden tablet to the people of the Black Demon sect, so he deliberately said those words to excuse himself. Secondly, Chu Yu did not know anything about this. He just happened to meet someone who had left the Black Demon sect and obtained this wooden tablet by chance. But for a moment he was unable to determine what was going on. Based on your words alone, we can't believe your words. Do you have any evidence? Or was there someone else who was fighting alongside you? Chu Luiyue said honestly, at that time there was only him and me. No one else was present. Many people looked at each other. Alone? That was even more absurd. If someone helped, it wasn't impossible for Chu Yu to win this battle. But now, even he admitted that he was the only one, it was really hard to believe. Yao Bin's expression turned even colder as he gripped the wooden tablet tightly. If that's the case, I'm afraid we have to investigate thoroughly. Wait. Chu Luiyue opened her mouth and interrupted him. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she smiled softly. Although I was fighting alone at that time, I have a witness for this matter. Witness? Including Yao Bin, everyone present was stunned. It was clearly a one-on-one battle. How could there be a witness? Just as everyone was filled with doubts, Chu Luiyue turned around and waved at Luo Yanming and Zhuosheng, who were standing behind Elder Wenxi. Yanming, Zhuosheng, please help me testify. The two people who were suddenly called out were at a loss. Zhuosheng pointed directly at himself and asked in disbelief, "What? Why didn't he know that this matter had anything to do with them?" Luo Yanming stared at the wooden tablet and suddenly thought of something. He made up his mind and walked forward. "Hey, wait for me." Seeing him walk forward, Zhuosheng hurriedly chased after him. No matter what, Chu Yu needed their help, so they had to help. They quickly stood beside Chu Luiyue. Countless gazes fell on the two of them, causing them to involuntarily become nervous. Although the two of them were disciples of aristocratic families and could be considered to be experienced and knowledgeable. However, they had never experienced such a big scene where all the big shots of the divine ruins were staring at them. Those gazes seemed to materialize as they landed on their bodies, causing their bodies to stiffen. Even the carefree and carefree Zhuosheng had become much more obedient. Luo Yanming's heart was beating a little fast, and her hands in her sleeves were clenched tightly. He instinctively glanced at Chu Luiyue, but he saw that the young man beside her had a calm expression, a smile on his lips, and was at ease. As if he wasn't affected by the invisible pressure at all. If that person was only left with a soul, his strength would definitely be reduced, but even so he could possess someone, so he was at least at the level of a demigod. According to what you said at that time, you should only be a rank 8 warrior, right? How did you win? Even though the situation was somewhat different from what they had expected at the beginning, there was still a huge gap between a rank 8 warrior and a demigod. It was like a natural chasm of combat power, and it was simply impossible for others to catch up. Chu Yu fought alone and won. How did he do it? In fact, this was the question that everyone present was curious about. During this period of time, Chu Yu's name had spread throughout the divine ruins. Among them there were many guesses about his talent and strength. One thing was certain, and that was that Chu Yu was indeed a genius. Moreover, he seemed to be quite talented in Xianmaster and Celestial Physician. However, a genius was a genius, but he might not be a powerhouse. That battle was truly inconceivable. Hearing this, Chu Luiyue's lips curled up and she smiled. Her eyes were curved and her eyes were like stars. Because of this smile, his face, which could only be considered delicate and pretty, became lively. She said very seriously and sincerely, "Because I have a trump card." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1457. Everyone? What kind of answer was that? They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen such arrogant people. Yao Bin couldn't help but chuckle with some disapproval. Trump card? Then I wonder what kind of trump card could allow a rank 8 warrior to defeat a demigod? Since ancient times such things were very rare. This Chu Yu, I really don't know what he was thinking to actually give such an answer. Even if he had a trump card, in the case of an extremely tyrannical opponent, the weak wouldn't even have a chance to make a move. What's more, winning? Chu Luiyue crossed his arms and supported his chin with one hand, showing a troubled expression. Trump card. At that time she had taken out Scarlet Heaven Sword and directly killed the other party. If she said it, everyone would definitely guess that it was a venerable artifact. At that time, it might cause some trouble again, but if she didn't say it, it was obvious that the situation in front of her was unsolvable. Chu Luiyue's hesitant look in the eyes of everyone was undoubtedly guilty. What trump card? I think it's just an excuse he made up. That's right, a rank 8 warrior fighting a demigod, isn't this courting death? It's already very difficult to escape alive and he actually said that he won. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I think either the origin of this wooden token is wrong, or he used other methods. Actually, no one has seen those people from the Black Demon Cave. Who knows if they really started fighting or all kinds of discussions drilled into their ears. Xuanhuan was anxious and couldn't help but shout, "What we said just now is all true." When Chuyu came back that day he was even injured. Being injured doesn't mean anything. Yaobin looked at Xuanhuan coldly, and the tyrannical pressure suddenly pressed down on Xuanhuan's chest, making him unable to speak. His face quickly flushed red. "Yaobin." Elder Bo Yen suddenly shouted in a low voice. An invisible force flew out. Bang! A slight collision sound rang out. Xuanhuan immediately felt the pressure on his body dissipate. He was finally able to relax and gasped for breath. However, his heart was still beating crazily and couldn't calm down for a long time. He knew that as long as the other party wanted to, he could take his life at any time. If not for Elder Bo Yan's help, Yaobin, don't go too far. Elder Bo Yan's face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. The coldness was threatening. Xuanhuan was only standing here as a witness. What right did Yaobin have to make a move? The people of his Spirit Firmament Academy were watching right here. Yaobin also felt that he had lost his composure. He frowned and his tone softened a lot. "I just think he's a little noisy. After all, I asked you. This old man knows that Purple Light County and Black Demon Cave are like fire and water, so it is normal for Princess Yao to lose her composure." Yaobin took a deep breath. Good. Bold. This kind of courage wasn't something an ordinary person could have. He just didn't know if this Chuyu was a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of tigers, or did he really have a trump card? Chu Luiyue smiled lightly and nodded. "Thank you for the compliment. Then who do you want to invite?" Everyone looked around. There were many exalted gods here but not many demigods. A slightly hoarse voice suddenly sounded. "I'll do it." Bailey June turned his head in surprise. Lil Lu Yu, her body hadn't completely recovered yet. Jiang Jiwan's heart was very firm. There weren't many opportunities to kill Chu Yu in public like this. Chu Liwe looked at the young man who stood out and narrowed her eyes dangerously. After a moment she smiled brightly. "Sure. You're welcome." Digression. Today's 4th update, tomorrow's 6th update. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1458. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Jiang Ziyuan, who had carefully disguised herself with different expressions. From the outside she looked like an ordinary young man in all aspects. And her aura was indeed that of a demigod. Originally, everyone was still a little hesitant about the candidate, but now that someone had stepped forward, they were relieved. Moreover, this person was brought here by Bailey June, so everyone had to give him some face. In some people's eyes, perhaps Bailey Chun was trying to support the young man he had taken a fancy to. After all, if she could show off in front of so many big shots in the world of God, she would definitely become famous. No one objected, so the matter was settled. Jiang Jiwan took a deep breath and walked forward. When she passed by Bailey June did not forget to remind her in a low voice. "Xiaolu, be careful." Jiang Jiwan smiled and nodded. "Thank you, Patriarch." As she spoke, she continued to walk forward and to the center of the field, facing Chu Luiyue. Yaobin glanced at the two of them. He did not know this person called Xiaolu, but if she was valued so much by Bailey June, she must be quite capable. He thought for a moment and said, "This match is very important. I hope that both of you can do your best and don't have any concerns. As long as it doesn't hurt your life, everything else is up to you." Many people were shocked. They all knew that this would be a fierce battle. Bailey June stared at the field, his old face expressionless. Only that pair of slightly turbid but still shrewd eyes revealed that he was not as unconcerned as he appeared to be. In fact, he had his own plans when he agreed to Jiang Jiwan's request. Jiang Jiwan had been expelled from Lingxiao College and her reputation was almost ruined. In the world of God she could not even raise her head. If she could win this match beautifully, everyone present would definitely look at her in a different light. At that time, it would be logical to reveal Jiang Jiwan's identity. At that time, Elder Bo Yen and the others would realize how much of a pity it was for them to give up on Jiang Jiwan. Choosing to support Chuyu with all their might was a huge mistake. Bailey Jun's plan was perfect and he directly ignored this match. Jiang Jiwan was facing the opponent's rank 8 warrior with the strength of a demigod. This was an extremely unfair competition to begin with. It was normal for Jiang Jiwan to win. But if he lost, he would have nothing left. Chu Liwei looked at the young man in front of him and raised his eyebrows slightly. "May I know this brother's name?" Jiang Jiwan said calmly, "I'm only here to exchange blows with you. You don't need to know my name." Her identity was fake to begin with. It was fine if she said a vague name, but the more details she said, the easier it would be for people to find out. Rong Xiu was still here. If he wanted to investigate, she didn't think she could really avoid it. Chu Liwei shrugged and chuckled. "Don't misunderstand, I just feel that. You're a little similar to someone I know." Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat, and a trace of impatience appeared on his face. "Time is of the essence, let's end this quickly." Chu Liwei smiled and agreed. "Okay." Before she finished speaking, Jiang Jiwan had already started to move. His feet were slightly crossed, his knees were half lowered, and the force around him was rapidly gathering. His aura was surging. Chu Liwei narrowed his eyes. This aura, it was a little different from what she had expected. Every cultivator's aura was unique. Once they made a move, those who were familiar with them would definitely be able to guess it. She originally thought, seeing Chu Liu's expression, Jiang Jiwan sneered in his heart. Since she had decided to come, of course she had to be fully prepared. Before coming, Bailey Jun had already used the Yuan instrument to conceal and change her aura. Even if she used the force and attacked, she didn't have to worry about being detected. Moreover, with the help of the Yuan instrument, her combat strength was much stronger than before. In short, today's competition, she was definitely going to win. A jade-green origin power gushed out from her palm and quickly gathered in front of her to form a giant wheel. Then, with a flick of her other hand, a bright bead flew out. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The bright white pearl the size of a longan collided with the center of the turquoise wheel. The sound was extremely crisp and clear, like jade hitting stone. In the next moment, the pearl was like a drop of ink falling into water, quickly spreading out. Soon, the brilliant ball of light expanded rapidly, almost occupying half of the turquoise wheel, forming a small wheel. The turquoise and bright white intertwined, and it was especially eye-catching. It was emitting a powerful aura. When everyone saw this, they were all slightly shocked. 2 types of divine power? This person called Little Lu is actually so powerful? No way. A cultivator can only have 1 type of divine power in his body. Did he take out a bead and throw it in just now? That bright white divine power must have been stored in it in advance, right? As long as it is activated, the divine power in it can be released for one's own use. This divine pearl is very convenient to use, but the refining process is very complicated. Many people may not be able to refine a divine pearl that belongs to them even if they break through to the immortal realm. I don't know where Little Lu got it from. Are you stupid? Bailey Jun values it so much. What is this divine pearl? Hey, now that you mention it, Bailey Jun's divine power seems to be bright white? Could this divine pearl be? Of course this was Bailey Jun's divine pearl. This time he had brought Jiang Jiwan here. His black jade-like eyes, which seemed to have sunk into a deep pool, gradually glowed with a piercingly cold light. An indistinct killing intent silently surged like the fog in the middle of the night. Unknowingly, everything was surrounded. There seemed to be an invisible barrier around her, isolating her from the outside world. It was as if no matter what happened outside, it would not affect her at all. Even at this moment he was still calm and composed. Some people secretly exchanged glances. This Chuyu, it seems, that he's not that simple. Jiang Jiwan met that pair of cold eyes, and in an instant her entire body turned cold. An indescribable fear suddenly rose from the bottom of her heart. She clenched her teeth and tried her best to calm herself down and suppress her restless heartbeat. What was there to be afraid of? The strength of a rank 8 warrior, how strong could he be? Right now she was 2 whole ranks higher than the other party. He was just putting on an act. Thinking of this, Jiang Jiwan's mood finally calmed down a little. Clang. Chu Liwei drew his sword. A streak of rainbow-colored light streaked across the sky. That's Some sharp-eyed people's expressions changed and they immediately sat up straight. Their eyes were fixed on the sword. Those present were all strong people of the current era. What good things had they not seen before? Their eyesight was very sharp. The moment Chu Luiyue took out the Scarlet Heaven sword, someone immediately sensed that something was wrong. This is the divine weapon that the Golden Wing sect in Lingxiao College fought over in the Blue Feather Abyss? That's it. Previously in the northern region of the primitive desolation, Chu Yu also used this sword to split open the door of the mysterious space. However, the aura of the sword at that time didn't seem to be so shocking. But this is indeed the same sword. Moreover, didn't Jin D suspect that it was actually a venerable divine weapon? Such an aura, such a pressure, how could a king divine weapon possess it? In fact, although everyone had heard of this news, there were not many who really took it to heart. Because it had been too long since a venerable divine weapon appeared in the Divine Ruins world. Moreover, they actually knew the ins and outs of this divine weapon. At that time, the Golden Wing sect in Lingxiao College were fighting over it. In the end, for some reason, Jin Lei died and Chu Yu became the owner of that divine weapon by accident. If it was really a venerable divine weapon, would Lingxiao College be willing to give it up? But what they didn't expect was that Lingxiao College was really willing to give it up. Moreover, because of the mediation of Rongxiu and the others, the elders didn't even pursue Chu Luiyue. They just let her take away a venerable divine weapon. After all, Lingxiao College was not the same as these aristocratic families. Therefore, at this moment, when they saw the red cloud sword in Chu Luiyue's hand, they only realized in hindsight and were full of shock. I've already said it. Jin D stared at the red cloud sword with bloodshot eyes. Although Chu Luiyue had used the red cloud sword in public before, she just waved it casually and didn't display its true power. In addition, those people's attention was elsewhere at that time, so they didn't pay much attention to it. It was not until now that Chu Luiyue was about to officially take action that they realized that they had made such a big mistake. But now it was too late for regrets. After all, they couldn't openly snatch something from Lingxiao College's student in their territory, right? However, there were still some people who were quick-witted. Jianghu also saw it and couldn't help but feel jealous. The things that Bailey Jun gave her were not bad, and she was very satisfied at the beginning. But compared to a venerable divine weapon, it was nothing. This Chu Yu's background was unclear, and he was arrogant and undisciplined, which was very annoying. She really didn't know what the college and Rongxiu saw in him. Suddenly, Chu Luiyue threw the scabbard into the air. A brilliant ray of light streaked across the air. In the next moment, Chu Luiyue held the sword with both hands and tiptoed. Her figure instantly flew out. She was very agile. She soared into the air. She raised the sword above her head. Whoosh! The surrounding energy of heaven and earth suddenly gathered toward the red cloud sword in a frenzy. In an instant, the world lost its color. It was a shock. Even the energy that was surging toward the wheel of the blue sky scorching sun was suddenly blocked by an invisible pressure. It changed direction and rushed into the red cloud sword at an even faster speed. What? Jiang Jiwan's heart skipped a beat. How could a venerable divine weapon be so domineering? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1460. But before she could digest this shock, she saw an even more frightening scene. After forcefully plundering the energy of heaven and earth that the clear sky-scorching sun wheel was devouring, the Scarlet Heaven sword actually started to shake the power of the wheel. The two wheels that were originally rotating in perfect harmony were now affected by the terrifying pressure and actually started to shake. Crack, crack. In the middle of the green and white wheels, a section suddenly staggered and let out an ear-piercing sound. The two forces instantly deviated from each other. They started to strangle each other. Jiang Jiwan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. The trace of fear that she had buried deep in her heart finally surged up at this moment. It easily drowned her. How could this be? How could this be? The duel had not officially started, and her opponent had only used a sword. It actually directly destroyed her attack. This move was a trump card that she had seriously practiced when she was following Bailey Jun. Other than the two of them, no one else knew that she would use this move. On one hand, she did not want to expose her identity. On the other hand, she wanted to get rid of Chu Yu directly, so she directly chose this move. New swoosh. Jiang Jiwan's mind raced as she quickly took out the second God's Pearl. It shot out. Bang. The God's Pearl entered the center. A vast and terrifying power surged out. In the blink of an eye, the bright white God's power quickly spread out and enveloped the entire huge clear sky scorching sun wheel. The white color was still white and the green color also became white. The two wheels that were about to go berserk were finally controlled in time. The green god's power was devoured and completely merged with the small white wheel inside. The aura on it seemed to be even stronger than before. It continued to close in on Chu Luiyue. However, this scene caused many people to frown and shake their heads repeatedly. The balance between the two gods' powers was broken by Chu Yu, and little Lu was unable to do anything about it. He could only add another god's pearl to completely cover his green god's power and barely control it. But, in this way, doesn't it mean that he didn't do anything at all, and only threw out two god's pearls to deal with this competition? Bailey June is really good to him. He actually took out two god's pearls so casually. I think we might be able to pull out a few more boosts later. Haha, if that's the case, why don't we just let Bailey June come up and fight with Chuyu? Isn't that more direct and convenient? Everyone discussed animatedly, and there was no lack of ridicule. They were willing to give Bailey June face, but it did not mean that they were afraid of him. Look at this match. What did it look like? What a joke. That little Lu is representing us. His actions are really shameful. Did you see it clearly just now? Chu Luiyue curved her lips into a smile. That's how I won that day. Then she looked around. Her tone was still casual and calm and her smile was gentle. Everyone, if there's anyone who didn't see it clearly, I can demonstrate it again. Digression. Yesterday, I broke my hand washing socks. I cried because of my stupidity. After a night, it's already much better. Sob sob sob. Update will continue at 6 o'clock p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 1461. Demonstrate again? Even if he had the strength to swing his sword again, Lil Lu might not be alive enough to withstand a second strike. Chuyu, don't go too far. Before Yaobin could say anything, Bailey June was the first to reprimand him. Chu Luiyue turned around and blinked at Bailey June. Clan leader Bailey, I'm just explaining to everyone. How is that going too far? Suddenly, she had a look of realization. Oh, are you talking about me injuring this person? But we're in a competition, so there has to be a winner, right? Also, we've only exchanged one move. She looked innocent, as if she was at a loss of what to do. A low chuckle suddenly came from the quiet crowd, but it was quickly suppressed. However, this chuckle seemed to have flipped a switch. The originally cold and solemn atmosphere became subtle. Many people could not help but laugh and secretly exchange glances with each other. One move. Wasn't it just one move? From beginning to end, Chuyu had only swung his sword once. What's more, he didn't do anything. In the end, it was Lil Lu who did not live up to expectations. She could not win with two of Bailey June's divine pearls, and was even beaten to a pulp by her opponent. Not only did Bailey June not feel embarrassed, he even had the cheek to be angry here? What a joke. Originally, everyone thought that those who could be brought here by him must have top-notch talents. Now, it was obvious that she was an idiot who could not handle the situation. They really did not know what Bailey June was thinking. No one spoke and the scene was very quiet. However, everyone's thoughts were more or less expressed on their faces. How could Bailey June not see it? After living for so long, how could he not see the mockery and ridicule of others? He could not feel it. Those people looked at Jianghu on the ground, then looked at Bailey June with meaningful eyes. Bailey June felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. His face was red and his throat was tight. For a moment he did not know how to refute. It was a competition. It was a battle. Moreover, it was an extremely crucial match. He couldn't possibly stop them from making a move. Bailey June's blood was rushing through his veins. His heart was beating like a drum, and his temples were throbbing. He was about to explode from anger. He glanced at Jiang Jiwan, feeling both angry and distressed. Get up. If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people watching, he would have personally helped her up. But Rong Xiu's words just now made him vigilant, so he didn't dare to be too presumptuous, so he had no choice but to comply. Jiang Jiwan also felt wronged. How could she have known that this Chuyu was actually so terrifying? Once the Venerable One's divine weapon was used, it was simply unstoppable. What was the point of talking about winning or losing? In front of so many people with the strength of a demigod, he lost to the opponent's rank 8 warrior. This was worse than killing her. She was as proud and complacent as she was at the beginning, and now she was as angry and resentful as she was angry. She struggled to get up, pulling at her wound. It was so painful that her vision turned black. Seeing the mottled bloodstains on the ground, She was shocked and her hatred for the young man in front of her increased. This Chuyu, was he here specifically to subdue her? At this moment, Chu Luiyue suddenly took a step forward. Jiang Jiwan was frightened and subconsciously took a few steps back. In a moment of carelessness, she fell to the ground again. More blood oozed out of the wounds on her body. It was mottled and messy and she looked very miserable. Yo, what else do you want? Because of nervousness and fear, Jiang Jiwan's voice became shrill and ear-piercing. Chu Luiyue looked at her in surprise. I just wanted to ask if you were going to admit defeat. Why are you so nervous? Jiang Jiwan's face turned red and white. She felt that she had completely lost her face. And Bailey Jun had already turned his eyes away. Out of sight, out of mind. He really hated to see Jiang Jiwan's useless and cowardly appearance. In the past, Jiang Jiwan was confident, generous, and likable. Why did it suddenly become like this now? There were so many top experts in the Divine Ruins world present, and each of them had a high status. If they saw this scene, who knew how they would mock him behind his back? And Yuntian Tower. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at Rong Xiu, only to see the man leaning against the back of the chair with a relaxed expression and a lazy posture. His thin scarlet lips were slightly raised as if he was smiling. Smiling? At this time Rong Xiu could still smile? Didn't he think that this was a loss of face for Yuntian Tower? Holy Sun, say a few words. Bailey Jun couldn't help but frown and speak. Rong Xiu tilted his head and looked over. His expression was gentle, but his eyes were cold. He had a faint smile on his face. What does the patriarch want I to say? Say what? Of course it was to speak up for Jiang Jiwan. Bailey Chun was infuriated. Rong Xiu was clearly doing this on purpose. Of course it's about this match. Bailey Jun reminded him vaguely. As long as Rong Xiu spoke, he represented Yuntian Tower's position. Chuyu probably couldn't go too far. As if he understood Rong Xiu's hint, Rong Xiu looked enlightened. He turned his gaze and looked at the arena. Chuyu, he spoke lazily. His voice was low, but it was full of magnetism. It easily tugged at people's heartstrings without batting an eyelid. Everyone pricked up their ears. Then they heard Rong Xiu say with a faint smile. You did well. Dead silence. Bailey Jun's expression instantly cracked. Jiang Jiwan looked like she was struck by lightning. She was about to go crazy. She thought Rong Xiu would speak up for them, but he actually went to praise Chuyu? Son of God. Bailey Jun tried to suppress the anger in his heart, but his eyes were burning with flames. Little Lu is a member of Yuntian Tower, you, patriarch. You just came out of seclusion not long ago. There are some things that you don't know. Rong Xiu interrupted him and chuckled. From the beginning to the end, I stood on junior brother Chuyu's side, just like the academy. Now that she had won and had proven her strength and innocence, could it be that she was still not worthy of a compliment? Rong Xiu said slowly. Bailey Jun suddenly choked. He knew. Of course he knew. Jiang Jiwan had told him before that Rong Xiu took great care of Chuyu. After hearing this, he naturally didn't have a good impression of Chuyu. This time he came with the intention of destroying Chuyu's prestige. He was so focused on helping Jiang Jiwan vent her anger that he completely forgot about this. Only now did he realize that Rong Xiu had drawn a line between them from the beginning to the end. It was their own business to lose face. What did it have to do with him? Chu Luiyue smiled, her eyes curved. Thank you, Your Highness. Then she looked at Jiang Jiwan and raised her eyebrows. It seems that you still don't want to admit defeat? With that, she took another step forward. This step was like stepping on Jiang Jiwan's heart. She stopped breathing and shouted almost reflexively. I admit defeat. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1462. Because of her nervousness and fear, she shouted quickly and hurriedly. She even lost her voice. It was as if she was begging for mercy when someone grabbed her by the neck. Many people sneered, their faces full of sarcasm. That's it? She was really unpresentable. It seemed that Bailey Jun was really old and muddle-headed. Moreover, Rong Xiu's words just now were very meaningful. The two people with the highest status, Yun Tianke and Li Qingshan, clearly had a great disagreement. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were on opposite sides. It was just that they had not completely shed all pretense of cordiality. However, this day might not be long in coming. Chu Liwei nodded in satisfaction, then looked at Yao Bin. Princess Yao, I wonder if you are satisfied with this competition? Yao Bin looked at the scene in front of him in a daze, his mood complicated. In a short time, the situation had taken a turn for the worse. He originally thought that Chu Yu's speech was merely an excuse for him to absolve himself, and it was also extremely absurd, not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. But reality slapped him in the face. At this moment, when he met that pair of black and bright eyes, he felt his face burning. But it could not be helped. Before the results came out, who would have thought that Chu Yu would win? But not only did he win, but he won beautifully. Yao Bin's hands clenched and loosened. In the end, he could only sigh. I believe your previous explanation and am willing to keep my promise. From now on, I will not suspect that you have any unusual relationship with the Black Demon Cave. Yao Bin took a while to accept reality, but it could be said that he was decisive. Then he took a step forward and cupped his hands at Chu Luiyue. Previously, I misunderstood you, so I apologize to you. Chu Luiyue tilted her head and smiled. Princess Yao is too polite. I know that you also want to find out the truth, and I can take this opportunity to clear my name. It's a good thing. You don't have to take it to heart. The reason why Yao Bin was so aggressive toward her previously was that he believed in his heart that Chu Luiyue had something going on with Black Demon Cave. Purple Light County and the Black Demon Cave had a blood feud, so it was normal for him to have such a reaction. What was rare was that after knowing that he was wrong, he could still apologize in public. He had completely let go of his pride, which could be considered magnanimous and upright. Chu Luiyue had a good impression of him. If he wanted to deal with the Black Demon Cave in the future, he might be able to join forces with them. Of course, this was a matter for the future. This thought flashed through Chu Luiyue's mind, but she quickly suppressed it. She raised her head slightly and flicked her wrist. Clang. He sheathed his sword. With a brilliant flash of light, Scarlet Heaven Sword returned to her hand. In the surroundings, many gazes fell upon Scarlet Heaven Sword. Chu Luiyue's eyes flickered as he sneered in his heart. Today she took out the Scarlet Heaven Sword, which would definitely attract a lot of trouble. Right now, these people were restraining themselves for the sake of the academy. However, in the future, it was hard to say. He's just relying on the divine might of the Venerable One's divine weapon. A low voice that was obviously suppressing something was heard. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Jianghu, who had just turned around and was about to retreat. He took a step forward and blocked the other party's path. Wait. Jianghu's heart skipped a beat. She looked up at Chu Luiyue with a trace of panic in her eyes. What are you doing? I should be the one asking you that. Chu Luiyue smiled. Don't tell me you don't understand the principle of accepting defeat? I'm still here. What do you mean by that sentence just now? Everyone looked over again. Jianghu was extremely nervous. The terrifying experience from the fight just now had left a heavy shadow on her. She almost didn't have the courage to face Chu Luiyue again. However, she was still unwilling to accept it. Avoiding Chu Luiyue's intimidating gaze, Jianghu lowered her head. I didn't say anything. It seems that you're very dissatisfied with the result of the fight just now. Faced with Chu Luiyue's questioning, Jianghu was about to break down. She was already in a bad mood after losing. Everyone was praising Chu Yu and belittling her, as if there was a huge gap between them. However, that was not the case. If she also had a venerable artifact, how could she have lost? Therefore, Jianghu hesitated for a moment and chose to admit it. I'm just telling the truth. She gritted her teeth. If you don't use that venerable artifact and fight with me, it's still unknown who will win. The surroundings were silent for a moment. Everyone could hear the provocation in her words. Bailey Jun opened his mouth and wanted to stop her. However, after thinking about it, he swallowed those words. In fact, he also thought so in his heart. He could tell that Chu Yu's strength was much more powerful than ordinary cultivators of the same level, but it was not so incredible. The most important thing was still that venerable artifact. Chu Luiyue stared at Jianghu for a while and suddenly smiled. Since you think so, then let's have another fight? As soon as she said that, everyone was shocked. Jianghu suddenly looked up and looked at her in disbelief. What did you say? Since you're not convinced, then let's change the method and beat you until you're convinced. Chu Luiyue smiled, but every word she said was as sharp as a knife. It was precisely this casual attitude that made Jianghu's anger explode in an instant. The other party had a venerable artifact, she could not beat him. But if it was a normal fight, how could she not win? However, if that's the case, I won't suppress my strength anymore. Chu Luiyue added. 9th stage warrior? Jianghu did not care. She seemed to be afraid that Chu Luiyue would go back on her words and immediately said, Okay, then it's a deal. Digression. The 6th watch might be a little later, about 6:30 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read, a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1463. Just like that, the two of them decided on a new match with just a few words. No one stopped them. Some people wanted to see if Chu Yu really had the strength to win against a demigod without the venerable artifact. Some people wanted to test the true level of Chu Yu's combat strength. There were also people who purely wanted to watch the show and didn't mind blowing things up. The only people who were worried were the people from Lingxiao College. This kid, Elder Bo Yen, wanted to dissuade them, but before he could say anything, the two of them had already decided. Moreover, this matter was proposed by Chu Yu himself. If he objected, he would look a little guilty. Bo Yen, don't worry. That kid won't lose so easily. Elder Hua Feng leaned closer and said in a low voice. Elder Bo Yen turned his head and glanced at him. How could he be so sure? There was still a difference between a rank 9 warrior and a demigod. Elder Hua Feng suddenly chuckled, touched his chin and looked at the field. Others didn't know, but he knew. That kid had many trump cards. If he didn't allow him to use Scarlet Heaven Sword, he could still use other trump cards. Poor Xiaolu. He was covered in wounds and thought that he had a chance to turn the tables. There was also Bailey June. If he still had a bit of rationality, he wouldn't agree to the second match now. He didn't think about it. Chu Yu suppressed his strength to that of a rank 8 warrior and was still able to wield Scarlet Heaven Sword. How could an ordinary person compare to him? Seeing Elder Hua Feng's expression of waiting to watch a good show, Elder Bo Yen felt a little strange, but his heart calmed down a lot. He also turned his head, intending to see how things would develop. Jiang Jiwan took out a pill and swallowed it. A warm and gentle force instantly spread to her limbs and bones. This made her feel much better. Dragging a heavily injured body, her combat strength would definitely be greatly reduced. But she wanted to win too much. What did he eat just now? Why do I smell the scent of a bewildering fragrance pill? Elder Wan Zheng's nose twitched as he frowned slightly. This kind of pill was very precious and could only be refined by venerable doctors. And its effect was extremely special. This kind of medicinal pill could, for a short period of time, allow a cultivator to ignore their injuries and unleash their strongest power. Sometimes, it could even allow a heavily injured person to display strength that exceeded their normal level. However, the side effects of this bewildering fragrance pill were also very strong. This was because this was equivalent to overdrafting the cultivator's physical strength and energy. After half an incense stick of time passed, the body of the person who had taken the pill would rapidly deteriorate. If it was not treated in time, it would leave irreversible damage. Therefore, under normal circumstances, only in a life and death situation would people be willing to use this thing. This was just a competition. It had to be said that Jiang Jiwan was going all out by doing this. That is indeed the bewitching fragrance pill. Rong Xiu said calmly. Elder Wan Zheng's frown deepened. It's just a competition, not a life and death battle. What is he trying to do? Their precious disciple had a good temper and was not someone to be bullied. Rong Xiu looked at the field. Chu Liyue's shoulders and back were straight, like a pine tree. After seeing Jiang Jiwan take the bewitching fragrance pill, she raised her eyebrows slightly, seemingly a little surprised. Rong Xiu lowered his eyes slightly, hiding the smile that flashed across his eyes. Her acting was really realistic. She was clearly waiting for her opponent to do this, but she still pretended to be surprised. It seemed that this time, she was determined to completely take care of her opponent. Chu Liyue did it on purpose. It was not like she had nothing better to do. Did she want to do this again just to prove that she was stronger than her opponent? Or did she take the initiative to give up the venerable artifact and fight with her opponent barehanded? Her opponent was brainless, but it did not mean that she was the same. This move was to retreat in order to advance. It could not be simpler. Her opponent's desire to win was very strong. At this time, as long as there was a slight chance of winning, her opponent would grab it tightly. Chu Liyue thought to herself, Amit Ba. She had always been kind and could not bear to see others being tortured. Her opponent was about to go crazy and only wanted to die. How could she bear to look on helplessly? It was better to be kind and help Buddha all the way to the west. Please? Chu Liyue seemed to have heard the words about the bewitching fragrance pill from the people around her. She frowned slightly and looked slightly nervous. Jiang Jiwan clenched her fists. The wounds on her body did not hurt anymore, and there was constantly energy surging from all parts of her body. It gathered in her dantian. It had been a long time since she felt so full of energy and her combat strength was off the charts. Although the bewitching fragrance pill had side effects, She was certain that she could definitely take care of her opponent within half an incense's time. In fact, it would only take one move. Jiang Jiwan's confidence increased greatly, as if she could already imagine the scene after she won. She was filled with excitement, and the expression on her face was almost impossible to hide. She did not want to hide it either. The next moment she crossed her hands in front of her. The turbulent force gathered. The aura around her increased greatly. After a while, a cry of surprise came from the crowd. Why is her aura still increasing? Is she going to break through to the exalted god realm? Not long after that, a light appeared between Jiang Jiwan's brows. A totem appeared clearly, and the pressure on her body officially broke through to the exalted god realm. Relying on the power of the bewitching fragrance pill, she forcefully raised her realm temporarily. Many people's expressions changed slightly. When they looked at Chu Luiwei again, they could not help but shake their heads. Although this was very dangerous, it was very useful. A exalted god powerhouse could easily crush a stage 9 warrior with one hand, right? Jiang Jiwan felt a tearing pain in her body. It was caused by forcefully raising her realm. But she did not care. As long as she could win, what did this matter? She threw out a punch. It was simple and direct. At this time, tyrannical strength was better than any tricks. The shadows of her fists were everywhere, heading straight for Chu Liyue's face. She did not move. Why isn't Chu Yu moving? Is he stupid? Some people secretly frowned. Even if he could not win, he could run. What was the point of standing there in a daze? However, just as that terrifying power was about to crush and devour Chu Liyue, a clear cry suddenly resounded through the world. Screech. A crimson gold light burst out from Chu Liyue's body and instantly flourished. Then, a huge figure appeared in front of Chu Liyue. Its entire body was golden and its pressure was impressive. Crimson gold heavenly phoenix? Everyone was shocked on the spot. Some of them could not even suppress their impulse and directly stood up. They stared dumbfoundedly at the ancient mythological beast that had suddenly appeared. How, that's Chu Yu's contracted divine beast? Someone suddenly shrieked with a trembling voice. Boom. Dumpling's wings flapped, and the heavy shadows of the fists dissipated with a loud bang. Jiang Jiwan was also shocked. Her whole body was cold and great fear surged in her heart. Crimson gold heavenly phoenix? When did this happen? Dumpling. Chu Liyue said with a smile. Bring this person to have a good walk. Screech. Dumpling leaned down and clamped Jiang Jiwan with its claws. Flew up. Chu Liyue touched his chin. Half an incense's time, it would be over after 2 rounds. Digression. Tomorrow is the 11th of the double 11. I don't know if I'm going to write or look at Taobao at night. Sob. Chapter 1464. Dumpling's extremely sharp claws pierced through Jiang Jiwan's skin and dug deep into her flesh. The sharp pain caused Jiang Jiwan's face to turn ghastly pale. Bang. The reddish gold flame burned as if it was going to roast and devour her. Jiang Jiwan was shocked and terrified as she struggled with all her might. However, her strength was nothing in front of the reddish gold celestial phoenix. It was true that she had broken through to the great deity level, but the other party was an ancient divine beast. The two of them were not on the same level at all. What was there to fight over? It was a complete suppression. Jiang Jiwan endured the pain and forced herself to look down. She was shocked to find that she was being taken away. Where did this beast want to take her? If she could not break free after half an hour, then she was done for. Deep fear surged in Jiang Jiwan's heart. She hurriedly mobilized all the strength in her body, wanting to struggle out. Let me down, you beast. Let me go. Dumpling's gaze turned cold. She was courting death. Crack. Dumpling flew even faster while exerting force with its claws. It actually broke a few of Jiang Jiwan's ribs. Hiss. Jiang Jiwan sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain. Her whole body trembled. She even vaguely felt that those sharp claws were about to dig out her internal organs. Immense fear surged in her heart. Jiang Jiwan's pale lips trembled. She could not rely on herself. She was afraid that, help, clan, smack. Dumpling swung one of its wings down and directly slapped Jiang Jiwan's head. There was a dull thud. Jiang Jiwan's vision turned black, and she fainted right away. Dumpling leisurely carried the stiff Jiang Jiwan just like that and flew further away. Master said that he had to make 2 rounds. In the square, everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. For a long time no one made a sound. She left just like that? What was going on? Seeing Jiang Jiwan being taken away, Bailey Jun was the first to react. He suddenly stood up and stared at Chu Liyue. Chu, what are you doing? His stern voice was filled with anger. Chu Liyue narrowed his eyes and then smiled. Clan leader Bailey, didn't everyone see clearly what I was doing? I'm competing. What kind of competition is this? That reddish gold celestial phoenix? That crimson gold celestial phoenix is my contracted divine beast. There's nothing wrong with me summoning it to battle, right? Chu Liyue's lips curved up, but her eyes were cold and clear. I've already promised not to use that divine artifact. Could it be that I'm not even allowed to summon magical beasts? Bailey Junes. Of course, there was no such logic in the world. Any cultivator who had a contract with a magical beast would always tacitly agree that the magical beast was one with them. There was nothing wrong with that. It was just that the contracted magical beast he had summoned was too shocking. Ancient divine beast. Only a few of the people present had seen it before, let alone a contract? If you think I'm breaking the rules by summoning Dumpling, then shouldn't you have said it in advance? Isn't it a bit late to mention it now? Chu Liyue said slowly. Bailey Jun's face turned pale. Say it in advance? How would he have thought that this ordinary-looking youth would actually have such a trump card hidden up his sleeve? If he had known, he wouldn't have let Jianghu fight. But it was too late to say anything now. He looked up and saw that Jianghu had been taken further away. That reddish gold celestial phoenix had no intention of coming back. Half an hour would pass soon. If Jianghu couldn't be treated in time, then ask that reddish gold celestial phoenix to bring Yuan Xiaolu back immediately. If anything happens to her, I won't let you go. Chu Liyue blinked. But isn't the competition still ongoing? Bailey Jun was fuming. What competition? I'm ordering you to stop the competition immediately. Chu Liyue's smile was polite but cold. Patriarch Bailey, you don't seem to have the right to say that right now? Bailey Jun had been the patriarch of Yintian Tower for 100 years. He had always been high and mighty. When had he ever been refuted like this? And in front of so many people. Chu Liyue's words ignited the fire in his heart that had been suppressed for a long time. How dare you? Before he finished his words, he raised his hand and a force flew out. The force turned into a sword and flew towards Chu Liyue's chest. The sound of air breaking was ear-piercing. Everyone's expression changed. No one expected that Bailey Jun would suddenly make a move. Elder Bo Yen and Elder Wanzheng made a move together. Chu Yu, be careful. However, there was one person who was faster than them. A golden stream of light streaked across the sky and instantly transformed into a huge net. It arrived first and surrounded the sword. Then it quickly tightened. Bang! A crisp sound was heard. The sword shattered with a loud bang. The terrifying force spread in all directions, but it was quickly swallowed by the golden net and disappeared without a sound. Then the golden net quickly condensed into a small butterfly. It paused on Chu Liyue's shoulder for a while before quietly dissipating. Chu Liyue's eyes flickered. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. From the beginning to the end, Bailey Jun's force did not even touch Chu Liyue's body. Everyone quieted down. Their eyes wandered back and forth between Rong Xiu and Bailey Jun. They all had different thoughts. The one who made a move was actually Rong Xiu. Although they had long known that these two people were not on good terms, they had always thought that Rong Xiu and Bailey Jun would not fall out with each other for the sake of the Yintian Tower and other factors. However, they did not expect everything to happen so quickly. Rong Xiu's interference was akin to slapping Bailey Jun's face in front of everyone. There was no turning back now that he had made a scene in front of so many people. Rong Xiu had always been far-sighted and strategizing. It was impossible that he did not know how far the situation would go once he made a move. However, he still did it. Moreover, he did it without hesitation. Even Elder Wanzheng and the others were a step slower. The atmosphere was tense and the space was frozen. Bailey Jun's expression was extremely ugly. He stared at Rong Xiu. Your Highness, what is the meaning of this? He had only been in seclusion for a few years, but the moment he came out, the world had changed. Now Rong Xiu was becoming more and more arrogant. He actually dared to fight him in public. Where was his face? What Bailey Jun did not know was that Rong Xiu did not care about his face at all. The reason why he made a move just now was very simple. Of course I will protect my people, said Qin Wendian. His expression was open and magnanimous and his voice was low and pleasant. He leaned against the back of the chair, his posture languid and calm. It was as if he did not care about what happened just now at all. The competition is still going on. Patriarch, if you act so rashly, won't others think that Yuntian Tower can't afford to lose? Before Bailey June could fly into a rage, Rong Xiu spoke first. A hint of a smile flashed across his lips as he reminded, everyone is still watching. You can afford to lose face, but don't drag Yuntian Tower down with you. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1465. Bailey June had never been so embarrassed. However, Rong Xiu's attitude was firm and reasonable. He didn't know how to refute it. What shocked him even more was that Rong Xiu's strength seemed to be stronger than he expected. Indeed, he only used 50% of his strength in that attack, but the fact that Rong Xiu could block it so easily was already very telling. After calming down for a moment, he took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the resentment and anger in his heart. He couldn't drag it on any longer. Jiang Jiwan's body couldn't hold on for that long. Thinking of this, Bailey June took a deep breath and looked at Chu Luiyue. In that case, this old man will represent her to admit defeat. This way the competition can finally end? Everyone looked at each other. Bailey Chun really treated that person called Xiao Lu well? Since you've said so, of course there's no problem. Chu Luiyue smiled. Bailey June snorted and sat back on the chair. However, after waiting for a while, the crimson gold heavenly phoenix didn't return with Jiang Jiwan. His brows furrowed once more as he questioned, Chuyu, why is your crimson gold heavenly phoenix still wandering around there? There wasn't much time left. Chu Luiyue smiled. Oh, you're talking about that? Dumpling hasn't come out to play for a while. It's rare for her to come out, so she's wild. It might take a while for her to come back. Bailey June suddenly became anxious. A while? Then wouldn't it be meaningless for me to take the initiative to compromise? You ask it to come back immediately. Xiao Lu is injured and needs to be treated as soon as possible. Chu Luiyue looked troubled. But Dumpling is lively and sometimes doesn't listen to me. You see, Bailey June was about to die of anger. What nonsense are you talking about? Since it's your contracted magical beast, it should obey you. If you ask it to come back, would it dare to disobey? How dare it? Chu Luiyue replied immediately. She blinked her eyes and smiled apologetically. Oh, you probably don't know, but Dumpling is an ancient divine beast, so its temper is a bit bigger. Sometimes even I can't do anything about it. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. He didn't know, who would know such a thing? They didn't have any contracts with ancient divine beasts. This Chuyu's mouth was really poisonous. Patriarch. Rong Xiu suddenly tilted his head and smiled faintly. When Xiao Lu swallowed the bewildering fragrance pill, he should have thought of this result. We have to be responsible for our own choices, don't we? Bailey June was speechless. He was anxious and regretful. However, he did not dare to reveal Jiang Jiwan's true identity. In that case, his face would be completely lost. In the future, Jiang Jiwan might not even be able to return to the Yuntian Tower. He could be biased and protective of her, but if it involved the interests of the Yuntian Tower, not to mention Rong Xiu 36 respected Elder Ming and the others would not let it go. Therefore he could only accept it. Time passed by bit. Seeing that half an incense was about to burn out, Bailey June finally couldn't help but speak again. Chuyu. This old man will say it one last time, if anything happens to Xiao Lu, you will not be able to get away with it. This Chuyu was clearly doing it on purpose. He stood up. This old man will go personally. If that crimson gold heavenly phoenix did not come back, he could go after it himself. However, just when Bailey June thought that Chu Luiyue would continue to stall for time this time, she suddenly smiled brightly. Patriarch Bailey, why are you in such a hurry? Look, isn't that back? What? Bailey June was stunned and looked up following Chu Luiyue's line of sight. Sure enough, he saw a streak of crimson gold streaking across the sky quickly. It was the crimson gold heavenly phoenix that had left for a while. Chu Luiyue seemed to heave a sigh of relief as she waved at Tuanzi. Dumpling. You're finally back. Didn't you see how anxious Patriarch Bailey was? Don't do this again in the future. Dumpling swung its claws and directly threw Jiang Jiwan's book to the ground. Then it folded its wings and changed back to the size of a palm, squatting on Chu Luiyue's shoulder. Chu Luiyue patted its head. Good job. Dumpling obediently and proudly went forward, wanting to rub her face. But before he could even touch it, he could already feel a wave of coldness assaulting him. Its body stiffened and it obediently turned around. Then it looked at Rong Xiu, who was not far away, with hidden bitterness. It was clearly its master, but it was not allowed to be intimate. Bah! How overbearing. Sooner or later, its master would help it take revenge. Chu Luiyue did not notice the surging undercurrent and looked at Jiang Jiwan, who was lying motionless on the ground. At this moment, Jiang Jiwan was covered in blood and bruises, and her face was as pale as a ghost. If it were not for the last weak breath, everyone would have thought that she was dead. Bailey Jun moved and was about to go over. Chu Luiyue was a step ahead and walked to Jiang Jiwan's side. "Don't touch her." Bailey Jun was frightened and shouted sternly. Chu Luiyue looked up with some surprise and a trace of confusion appeared in her eyes. "I just want to help take a look at her injuries. Don't worry, I'm also a celestial physician. Moreover, even if she really wanted to do something, she wouldn't do it in front of so many people." This Bailey clan leader was truly too concerned that his mind was in a mess. Chu Luiyue lowered her eyes slightly and a deep thought flashed through her mind. If she remembered correctly, this Bailey family leader had never married in his life and had no children. Moreover, he was very strict and harsh. The only person he cared about so much seemed to be. Thinking of this, Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. She raised her hand and reached out to his face. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1466. Bailey Jun's heart jumped to his throat when he saw this scene. "Stop!" Before he could finish his sentence, Chu Luiyue's fingertips had already touched the other party's cheek. Chu Luiyue immediately understood what was going on, and her lips slowly curled into a smile. It's true, the person lying on the ground was motionless. Chu Luiyue's hand had already touched the other party's chin. Then she gently rubbed her fingertips. As if disturbed by her movements, the other party frowned and struggled to open her eyes. Jiang Jiwan had fainted and was unconscious. At some point she suddenly felt that her face was a little itchy, and it made her very uncomfortable. The last bit of rationality she had left made her realize that the situation was not good. "Who's touching my face?" The moment she opened her eyes, the dazzling sunlight turned her vision white. After a few seconds she finally saw the face of the person in front of her. "Ah!" Jiang Jiwan let out a shrill scream of horror. She almost reflexively raised her hand to push the other party away. However, at this time many of her bones were broken, and her internal organs were squeezed into a ball. She was probably seriously injured. She did not even have the strength to raise her hand, let alone push the other party away. When she realized this, resentment and hatred surged in her heart. Chu Luiyue seemed to be startled by her scream. Her body leaned back slightly, but her hand was still on Jiang Jiwan's face. "Don't worry, the competition is over. I'll help you wipe the blood." "Wipe what?" You go away." Jiang Jiwan desperately wanted to retreat. Unfortunately, she was almost paralyzed at this time. Her movements only made her look like a powerless worm. "Didn't you hear what she said?" "You don't have to interfere." Bailey Jun hurried over. Chu Luiyue seemed to be at a loss. "I really didn't want to do anything. Hey, what's this?" As she spoke, she flicked her wrist and a translucent mask as thin as a cicada's wing appeared in her hand. Jiang Jiwan felt a burning pain on her face. "It hurts." In order to make this mask more comfortable, she had specially used a little method to reinforce it. If she wanted to take it off, she had to be very careful. Chu Luiyue's fierce tearing almost tore off half of her face. How could she not be in pain? But very quickly, the deathly silent atmosphere made her suddenly realize what had happened. She subconsciously raised her head and looked around. Everyone was looking at her with different expressions and strange gazes. Her face. Only then did Jiang Jiwan come back to her senses. Her heart was suddenly filled with deep fear. His entire body was ice cold. Bailey Jun, who was already a few steps away, suddenly stopped, his lips trembling. "It's over?" Elder Bo Yen suddenly stood up, his face solemn. "Jiang Jiwan, why are you here?" They couldn't be more familiar with this face. This question also made the remaining people, who were still uncertain, come to a realization. So this is Jiang Jiwan? Wasn't she expelled from Lingxiao College? Why is she here again today? I heard that she grew up with Bailey Jun and was very pampered. Her status in Yuntian Tower is very high. Didn't you see how Yuntian Tower still chose to take her in after she was expelled and embarrassed? I really don't know what's so good about her. From the competition just now, it seems like her talent is average. Also, she's narrow-minded and not presentable. In the past, Bailey Jun seemed to have planned for her to be engaged to Rongxiu. However, Rongxiu directly chose his own princess and didn't give her a chance at all. Now it seems like he already knew what Jiang Jiwan was like and never liked her, right? If I were Jiang Jiwan, I would hide after being expelled from Lingxiao College. I didn't expect her to be so thick-skinned. She actually used Bailey June's pampering to change her appearance and come here? Does she really not know how embarrassing this is? After today, she probably won't have any reputation in the world of God anymore, right? All kinds of discussions were unbearable to the ears. Jiang Ziyuan's body trembled, and tears streamed down her face. She looked at Bailey June with red eyes. Now only the clan leader could save her. I brought her here. Bailey Chun closed his eyes and enunciated each and every word clearly. At this point there were some things that he had to face. Elder Bo Yen sneered. We have all seen that. Clan leader Bailey, you know what I'm asking. Jiang Jiwan had already been expelled from Lingxiao College. According to the rules, she was not allowed to take half a step into Lingxiao College's territory. Now Bailey June actually brought her here? Who was this slap in the face? Bailey June was rarely questioned like this. At this time he was also angry. Xuanhuan is a member of Yuntian Tower. So what if I brought her here? At this point he was even angrier. Speaking of which, Xuanhuan's performance in the school has always been good. Now just because she made a small mistake you guys expelled her. Isn't it too much? Elder Bo Yen was so angry that he laughed. His eyes were like knives sweeping across Jiang Jiwan. Jiang Jiwan lowered her head guiltily. A small mistake? Clan leader Bailey, it seems that there are some things that you don't know. Didn't Jiang Jiwan tell you why she was expelled? Bailey June frowned. He felt that something was wrong. This tone sounded, At this time, a sharp pain suddenly came from Jiang Jiwan's body. She couldn't help but let out a shrill scream. Bailey June quickly ran over and helped her up. Xuanhuan, what happened to you? Jiang Jiwan kept vomiting blood and couldn't say a word. The blood was faintly black. Chu Luiwei glanced at her and kindly reminded her. It seems like half an hour has passed since she took the fragrance pill. Her yuan meridian is starting to break. Digression, I didn't sleep well last night. I feel like I've been hollowed out. Continue at 6 p.m. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1467. How could this be? Bailey June was not a celestial physician, but he knew a lot about the intoxicating fragrance pill. This was because Jiang Jiwan had asked him for this pill. When she came to the Yuntian Tower, she was poor and had nothing on her. She didn't even have the basic necessities, let alone a high-grade and precious pill like the intoxicating fragrance pill. Fortunately, Bailey June came out of seclusion. As the head of the Yuntian Tower, it was easy for Bailey June to get this pill. Of course, he had asked around before and knew that the side effects of taking the intoxicating fragrance pill were very serious. It had to be treated within half an hour, otherwise it would cause serious damage to the cultivator's body. But he didn't expect it to be so terrible. Her yuan meridian was broken? Why did this happen all of a sudden? Jiang Jiwan wailed in pain. Her entire body, inside and out, felt as if something was nibbling on it. Her flesh, blood, tendons and bones, her yuan meridian. The indescribable pain and numbness intertwined, almost making her want to die. Save me. Please save me. Jiang Jiwan struggled to say something, and her syllables were unclear. She didn't even have the strength to finish a sentence. Seeing her like this, Bailey Chun felt terrible and hurriedly shouted, "Don't worry. Someone help." No one answered. The Spirit Firmament Academy would definitely not lend a hand. As for the other celestial physician present, they were not stupid. Everyone could see that Jiang Jiwan had been completely rejected by Lingxiao College. If they helped, wouldn't it be obvious that they were going against them? Anyone with half a brain would know that it was unnecessary to offend Lingxiao College for such a useless person. As for Bailey June's face, Rong Xiu was still here. Even he hadn't helped, how could anyone else? He shouted twice but there was no response. Only then did Bailey Chun realize that something was wrong and looked around. With just a glance, he had already understood everyone's attitude, and he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Chu Luiwei was standing at the side. Seeing this, the corners of his lips curled up into a smile. "Chief Bailey, some of her injuries were caused by me and Dumpling. Why don't I take a look?" Before he could finish his words, Bailey June glared at him fiercely. His aged eyes seemed to be burning with flames. "Isn't it enough that you've made her so miserable? What else do you want to do? I didn't expect you to be so ruthless at such a young age." Vicious and vicious. Elder Wanjing rose to his feet and pointed a finger at him. "Bailey June. Watch your mouth. Who did this Bailey June think he was, scolding their people in Lingxiao College's territory? His strength was not weak, but they had so many people on their side that they were not to be trifled with either. Lingxiao College had been established in the world of God for thousands of years. How could they be bullied by a brainless and blind Bailey June? Rong Xiu lowered his eyes slightly, hiding the murderous intent in his eyes. Bailey June was warned loudly, and only then did he come back to his senses. He gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Jiang Jiwan struggled and groaned in pain. Her voice gradually weakened, and her face gradually turned from pale to dark. Chu Luiwa took a few steps back, crossed his arms and watched coldly from the side. Actually, she did not really want to save Jiang Jiwan. It was just that they were in Fang State City now and she was the only one who had fought with Jiang Jiwan twice. If she really died, Bailey June would definitely blame it all on her. Anyway, with the fragrance pill this time, even if Jiang Jiwan didn't die, she would be crippled. In the future, she would probably never be able to embark on the path of cultivation. How easy it would be to die and end all troubles. If she could live and experience how a genius turned into a good-for-nothing, that would be great. However, it seemed that Bailey June would rather let Jiang Jiwan die than accept her help. It would save her trouble. It hurts. It's hot. Jiang Jiwan was in so much pain that her head was a little dizzy. Her vision gradually blurred, and she began to mumble something in a low voice. Chu Luiwei raised her head and threw away the human skin mask. Then, she tidied up the messy strands of hair on her forehead, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. The side effects of taking the fragrance pill were very serious, and it indeed needed to be treated within half an incense stick's time. But in reality, under normal circumstances, the fragrance pill would not immediately cause such serious consequences. When Dumpling brought Jiang Jiwan out just now, she left a flame in her body. Although the flame was small, it was enough to directly ignite the power in Jiang Jiwan's body, and break her yuan meridian inch by inch. In just a moment she could completely turn her into a good-for-nothing. Chu Luiwei had long guessed that she was Jiang Jiwan, because the other party's hostility and targeting were too obvious. Even a person made of mud could not take the provocation time and time again. Moreover, Chu Luiwei was a person who would never let herself be at a disadvantage. Jiang Jiwan would not let go of her, but she did not have so much time and energy to waste on Jiang Jiwan. Today, everything would be settled clearly in this round. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Jiang Jiwan felt her consciousness starting to blur. After a long time she was even numb from the pain. She was like a drowning person, desperately struggling to find a life-saving straw. She originally thought that Bailey June could help her, but she waited, and the pain in her body did not lessen at all. A strong sense of despair surged from the depths of her heart and gradually swallowed her. Xuanhuan. Hang in there, Grandpa will bring you back. Bailey June knew that it was useless to continue wasting time here, so he made a prompt decision to bring Jiang Jiwan out of here. He moved carefully, trying to help Jiang Jiwan up. But Jiang Jiwan's injuries were too serious. Many of her bones were broken and she could not stand at all. The slightest movement would cause heart-wrenching pain. Bailey June could only put her down and comfort her in a low voice. Don't worry, Grandpa will call someone over. As he spoke, he took out another pill and fed it to Jiang Jiwan. Dragon Breath Pill. That's a pill that's even more precious than the bewitching fragrance pill. Bailey Chun is really willing to part with Jiang Ziyuan? So what if he's generous? Didn't you see the color on Jiang Jiwan's face? I reckon that her yuan meridian is almost completely destroyed. This dragon chi pill can only help her keep her alive. In this situation she's better off dead. Bailey June's energy and thoughts were all focused on Jiang Jiwan. How could he listen to the words around him? Chu Luiwei shook her head inwardly, finding it somewhat laughable. Bailey June really thought that Jiang Jiwan's body was not damaged enough. Dragon breath pills could replenish the chi, refresh the mind, and nourish the body. But the prerequisite was that one had to have a healthy and intact body. Now that Jiang Jiwan's yuan meridian was broken and she could not control the power in her body, wasn't he adding fuel to the fire? She shook her head, too lazy to continue watching, and turned to leave. At this moment, Jiang Jiwan's weak voice sounded from behind her. Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan. You. Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1468. Chu Liyue's expression didn't change at all. He didn't stop and continued walking forward. It was as if he didn't hear her voice or didn't have any special reaction to the name. Bailey Jun looked at Jiang Jiwan. Xuanhuan, what are you talking about? Shengguan Yu isn't here. Was her brain muddled? Jiang Jiwan forced her eyes open and stared at the back of the figure in front of her. Waves seemed to be surging in her heart. She didn't know why, but that woman's figure suddenly appeared in her mind just now. The suspicion that she had forgotten for a long time appeared again. She still felt that there was something wrong with Chuyu. That was why she had shouted out of the blue, wanting to see the other party's reaction. However, Chuyu didn't seem to have any abnormalities. Clan leader, no. A white light suddenly flashed in Jiang Jiwan's mind. Since Chuyu had a close relationship with Rongxiu, there was no reason that he didn't know about Shengguan Yu. Why didn't he react after hearing the name? This proved that there was something wrong with him. Chuyu is. She clutched Bailey Jun's sleeve tightly and spoke with difficulty. At that moment, the young man who had walked a distance suddenly turned around. Clan leader Bailey, although you don't believe me now, there are some things that I still have to say in advance. After the Yuan meridian is broken, we need to draw out the wild energy in the cultivator's body as soon as possible. If we force it to stay, it will only cause more damage. Jiang Jiwan's heart seemed to be blocked by something. She stared at the young man. He looked down at her condescendingly. His cold and indifferent eyes were filled with pity and sympathy. However, Miss Jiang is of noble birth. Even if you can't cultivate, you won't have to worry about food and clothing in the future. This sentence completely shattered the last line of defense in Jiang Jiwan's heart. She let out a wild, hysterical scream. Many people frowned slightly. What was she doing? She clearly didn't have the ability, but she was going crazy in the end. They didn't come here to watch this. Patriarch Bailey, I think you should hurry up and take her away. If this continues, I'm afraid that Jiang Jiwan won't be able to hold on for much longer. Someone said casually. His words were filled with undisguised impatience. Bailey Jun's expression changed, but he couldn't do anything about it. Because he knew that everyone else present was thinking the same thing. He took a deep breath. Just then, something grabbed his sleeve. He looked down and saw tears of blood falling from Jiang Jiwan's eyes. Please help me. She didn't want to become a cripple. In the past, she was a blessed girl. She was the best, she was the most outstanding. She should have gotten everything she wanted and not be like this, panicking like a stray dog. He was utterly defeated. She thought that she would have a chance to make a comeback today, but who knew that after a few rounds she would be completely trampled under the feet of those people. If he had suppressed her to this extent, she might not have felt so bad. The most devastating thing was that she once thought that she had a chance to make a comeback, but in the end she was ruthlessly sent to hell. Bailey Jun was so anxious that his eyes were red, and he made a mental note of Chu Luiyue. Don't say anything first, Grandpa will help you, Grandpa won't let you suffer. As Bailey Jun said, he wanted to pull Jiang Jiwan up while she recovered some strength. The ground was already covered with messy blood stains, and it was unbearable to look at. Chu Luiyue looked on indifferently from the side. As if sensing her gaze, Jiang Jiwan suddenly raised her head and looked over. There were still clear traces of tears on her face, but her scarlet eyes were cold and crazy. Chu Luiyue's eyebrows moved slightly, vaguely feeling that something was wrong with her. Xuanhuan, Bailey Jun was about to take her down when he suddenly found that she was staring at Chuyu, and couldn't help but feel strange. What are you looking at? Perhaps it was because she had taken the dragon energy pill, but at this moment Jiang Jiwan felt that her body had suddenly recovered a lot. She spat out a mouthful of blood and suddenly laughed. Clan leader, you still don't know. This Chuyu is Shengguan Yu? Chu Luiyue's pupils contracted slightly. When the surrounding people heard this, they were all stunned. Shengguan Yu? Who's that? This name sounds a little familiar. TSK, isn't this the name of the princess that Rongxiu chose a while ago? It's her? That's not right, is Jiang Jiwan confused? She actually said that Chuyu is Shengguan Yu? After a short period of dead silence, the surrounding people couldn't help but whisper softly. Bailey Jun held Jiang Jiwan's hand tightly with a shocked expression. Xuanhuan, what did you say? Jiang Jiwan smiled miserably. Her expression was crazed, and she carried a ruthless aura with her as if she wanted to drag everyone down with her. Actually, she wasn't sure, but she always had this question in her heart. Originally, she wanted to find an opportunity to go to the sacrificial god temple while she was at the Yuntian Tower. However, after a series of events, she didn't even see Shengguan Yu's face, let alone other things. At first, she didn't think about it. However, when she recalled everything that had happened, she felt that it was inexplicably familiar. In addition, she knew that her Yuan meridian was broken and she was already a cripple, so she had no scruples. Since she was already in this state, she might as well take a gamble. No one would have an easy time. Chuyu, do you dare to verify her identity in front of everyone? Countless pairs of eyes fell on Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue smiled, but there was a hint of coldness in her eyes. You're confused. With that, she turned around and prepared to leave. However, Jiang Jiwan didn't let her go. She used all her strength and screamed, "You're scared. You're guilty, aren't you?" Chu Luiyue didn't stop walking. I don't need to pay attention to a ridiculous guess without any evidence. However, just as he finished speaking, a low and deep voice suddenly sounded out. Who says there's no evidence? Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat and she looked up. In the air, a figure was rapidly approaching. Was Jiang Hetian. Why is he here? Everyone looked at Jiang Hetian with a strange expression. He came at the perfect time. However, Jiang Hetian turned a blind eye to their gazes. He quickly arrived at the square with one hand behind his back. He looked at Chu Luiyue and sneered, "Xuanhuan, are you still going to pretend?" Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1469. Chu Luiyue looked at him and suddenly smiled faintly. Patriarch Jiang, what are you talking about? Jiang Hetian saw that she didn't admit it, but he wasn't in a hurry. He looked around and cupped his hands at the crowd. Most of the people sitting here were of higher status than him. Everyone, do you know that the real Chu Yu standing in front of you now is the current princess consort of Yuntian Tower, Shanghai Yu? The crowd was in an uproar. Guessing was one thing, but hearing it with their own ears was another. It would be a lie to say that they weren't shocked and doubtful. After all, they were somewhat curious about the legendary princess consort from outside the Divine Ruins world who had suddenly appeared and succeeded in becoming the princess consort. Now, Jiang Hetian said that Chu Yu, who had caused a lot of trouble and stirred up the entire Divine Ruins world, was Shanghai Yu. How could they not be surprised? Jiang Hetian looked at Chu Luiyue with a mocking gaze. Shanghai Yu, don't you think it's inappropriate for you to use such a fake identity to toy with everyone? Chu Luiyue sneered in her heart. As expected, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. With just a few simple words, she stood on the opposite side of everyone present. The people here today were all reputable figures in the Divine Ruins world. If they knew that they had been deceived and played in circles, how could they not be angry? No matter what the reason was, they wouldn't let her off easily. Chu Luiyue's expression was still calm, but her mind was already working quickly. Jiang Hetian must have come prepared if he dared to suddenly appear like this. What did he know? What evidence did he have? If he wasn't completely confident, he wouldn't have fallen out with him so directly. Since Patriarch Jiang said that you have evidence, why don't you show it to everyone first? Chu Luiyue smiled and raised her eyebrows. Jiang Hetian sneered. Let's see how long you can laugh. Dad. When Jiang Jiwan saw Jiang Hetian appear, it was as if she had seen her last savior. She hurriedly shouted and rushed over. However, her voice was weak, her face was dark, and her body was covered in blood. She was in a sorry state. Jiang Hetian's gaze shifted. Seeing her like this, his heart trembled violently. He immediately went over to support Jiang Jiwan, feeling both heartache and resentment. Ziyuan, don't worry. Daddy will definitely not let others bully you like this again. He was going to take revenge. He wanted to make Xuanhuan Yu pay 1,000 times the price. He had already received the news that Jiang Jiwan was coming with Bailey Jun. Although he was a little uneasy at that time, he thought that Bailey Jun had always taken good care of Jiang Jiwan and would definitely not let her suffer. Who knew? There was no time to pursue the matter now. He could only put it aside for the time being and deal with it later. Jiang Hetian suppressed all kinds of emotions in his heart and gently patted Jiang Jiwan on the shoulder. Ziyuan, you go over to the side and rest first. Leave the rest to father. Seeing Jiang Hetian's confident look, Jiang Jiwan felt a little relieved. She nodded and left with Bailey Jun's help. In the middle of the square, only Chu Luiyue and Jiang Hetian were left facing each other. Xuanhuan Yu, don't you want evidence? I'll give you the evidence. Jiang Hetian said and suddenly looked at Shi. I heard that the second miss of the meteor sect had just contracted a legendary three-eyed eagle some time ago? Shi immediately became vigilant. So what? It's a gift from my father. Jiang Hetian smiled. Second miss, don't misunderstand. I just want to borrow your legendary three-eyed eagle for a while. I'll return it to you in a moment. Shi frowned. Why did he suddenly want to borrow her legendary three-eyed eagle for? She had a bad feeling and immediately refused. That's my contracted magical beast. How can I lend it to you just like that? Jiang was not surprised by her reaction and continued. Second miss, I know that Xuanhuan, oh no, I should say Chuyu, once saved you in the northern territory of the untainted land. It's normal for you to side with him. But now this is a serious matter. Second miss is dignified and upright. You can see the big picture. You won't be so stingy, right? Sure, Rui, frowned even more. Using these people outside to pressure her? Her face became colder. What if I don't agree? Jiang suddenly chuckled. Second miss, if you really treat him as a friend, you should agree. Wouldn't it be better if you can use this to clarify things? Sure, Rui, was a little uncertain. She turned her eyes and looked at Chu Luiyue. In fact, she was still in shock. If Chu Yu was really Xuanhuan, then Chu Luiyue noticed her gaze and looked over. Their eyes met. Chu Luiyue's lips curved up slightly as she smiled and nodded. Senior sister Rui, since he said so then, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you. When Jiang mentioned the legendary three-eyed eagle, she had already vaguely guessed what he was going to do. She had to admit that Jiang move was indeed unexpected. If she did not accept it, people would inevitably be suspicious. Therefore she had to pass this test. Sure, Rui was a little nervous, but after thinking for a moment, she nodded. Whoosh, with a clear and powerful cry, a strong and vigorous figure suddenly appeared above Sure Rui's head. It was Sure Rui's contracted mythological beast, the legendary three-eyed eagle. It was black all over, and when it spread its wings, it could almost cover the sky. Its sharp beak was frightening, as if it could easily take a person's life. Its cold and indifferent eyes were like knives quenched in ice, terrifyingly sharp. It flapped its wings and flew quickly between Chu Luiyue and Jiang. The surroundings quieted down. Everyone wanted to see what Jiang so-called evidence was. Jiang waved at the legendary three-eyed eagle. Please, the legendary three-eyed eagle hesitated for a moment, then flew over. The man and the beast were only 3 steps away from each other. Jiang had a polite smile on his face. Thank you. As he spoke, a cold light flashed in his hand. There was a rapid and brief sound of something breaking through the air. The next moment, there was the hair-raising sound of a sharp weapon cutting into flesh. A silver flying knife as thin as a cicada's wing flew straight into the chest of the legendary three-eyed eagle in front of him. Screech! The legendary three-eyed eagle let out a sharp cry of pain. In fact, it had keenly sensed the danger, but the distance between them was so close that it could not dodge at all. It subconsciously flapped its wings. A terrifying force swept out. Jiang chest tightened, and his body flew backward. This sudden scene gave everyone a huge shock. Sure Rui suddenly stood up, her voice stern. Jiang, you're crazy. He said that he wanted to invite her legendary three-eyed eagle over, so it was for an assassination? However, in the next moment, an even more shocking scene occurred. The dagger suddenly transformed into countless steel bars as thick as a pinky finger, quickly binding the legendary three-eyed eagle. The steel bars were densely packed with sharp barbs. It was as if the legendary three-eyed eagle would be completely cut into minced meat in the next moment. Jiang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, smiled sinisterly and smugly, and looked at Chu Luiyue. Seeing its own clansmen being tortured like this, could it be that your godly three-eyed eagle can still endure it? Digression. Make up for the previous update. That's all for today, mobile users. Please browse and read for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1470. The legendary three-eyed eagle clan had always lived in groups and had close ties with each other. Once they encountered any danger, they would share life and death with each other. They would never stand by and do nothing when one of their own clan was in trouble. Moreover, Zichen was once the eagle lord of the legendary three-eyed eagle clan. Chu Luiyue's pupils shrank. She did not expect Jiang to use such a despicable method. Sure Rui's expression changed drastically. She was about to rush over. However, Jiang suddenly shouted. Second miss, please wait. If you continue to come forward, I can't guarantee that you, the legendary three-eyed eagle, will still be able to survive. You, Sure Rui's chest heaved up and down violently. Her pretty face was pale with anger. This Jiang was crazy. Did he know what he was doing? Of course, Jiang knew that he would offend the meteor sect. However, he did not care about that anymore. This was the only way to deal with Xuanhuan. Therefore, he would not hesitate even if he had to bear the terrible consequences. When he saw Jiang Jiwan's identity exposed and her Yuan meridian ruptured, he knew that his years of preparation were in vain. Now he had no choice but to cut off all means of retreat. What was there to be afraid of? Xuanhuan Yu? Jiang Hetian smiled coldly. If you have the ability, just watch. As soon as he finished speaking, the steel bars that bound the legendary three-eyed eagle tightened again. The sharp barbs hooked onto the eagle's body. With a slight movement, a large piece of flesh would be torn off. Don't go. Zichen's deep and cold voice came from the bottom of her heart. Chu Luiyue could tell that Zichen was suppressing something in his words. After all, they were of the same race that was connected to it by blood. They were its descendants. How could he not feel heartache? However, he still chose Chu Luiyue at this moment. However, this did not make Chu Luiyue feel any better. On the contrary, it only made her heart heavier. Every word was like a heavy burden that pressed down on her shoulders, making it difficult for her to breathe. On the opposite side, streaks of blood had already appeared on the legendary three-eyed hawk's body. Sticky, sweet and fishy blood kept dripping down, creating red plum blossoms on the black and white jade floor. Mournful and cold. The scene seemed to freeze. Everyone quieted down as they watched the scene in silence. Although Jiang Hetian's methods were despicable, it was undeniable that they wanted to know the final answer. The situation fell into a deadlock. Zichen. Chu Luiyue gently exhaled a breath of turbid air. That's your fellow clansman. I can't just stand by and watch him die. But Zichen was still hesitant. It's the same if the crimson gold celestial phoenix appears. I just feel that there's something I need to tell you in advance. What is it? Just stand there and say it. Jiang Hetian shouted sternly. His eyes swept over Dumpling, who was on Chu Luiyue's shoulder, with some fear. The person in front of him was nothing to be afraid of, but that crimson gold celestial phoenix was really difficult to deal with. Chu Luiyue's footsteps paused, his expression leisurely. It was impossible to tell that he was the one being suppressed. I want to say, I hate being threatened the most in my life, she said slowly with a slight drawl at the end, with a bit of bone-chilling coldness. Especially, with everything I care about as the stake. Every word was bone-chilling. Murderous intent. Jiang Hetian met that pair of dark eyes, and his heart suddenly trembled. Swoosh. Sword light flashed in Chu Luiyue's palm. The crimson cloud sword was already clenched in his hand. Whoosh, at this moment, a huge figure suddenly appeared above her head. Its entire body was jet black, and its aura was astonishing. With a gentle flap of its wings, it set off strong winds and huge waves. That pair of eyes were disdainful and noble, and it actually made people unconsciously want to submit to it. It was the legendary three-eyed eagle. This was the first time Chu Luiyue summoned his second contracted divine beast in front of these people. Everyone was shocked on the spot. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The legendary three-eyed eagle. It's really the legendary three-eyed eagle. Is Chuyu really Xuanhuan Yu? It's definitely her. There has long been a rumor in the Divine Ruins world that the princess of the Yuntian Tower, Xuanhuan Yu, has two contracted divine beasts. One is the red-tailed phoenix, the other is the legendary three-eyed eagle. There's only one person in the world. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1471. This was admitting his identity in front of everyone. Jiang Hetian became excited when he saw this scene. He admitted it. He really admitted it. Xuanhuan Yu? Now that things have come to this, what else do you have to say? Before Jiang Hetian could finish his sentence, Zichen suddenly opened his third eye. That eye was purple gold in color. It was dazzling, noble, and domineering. He looked at the legendary three-eyed eagle that was tightly bound by the steel bars. In an instant, a terrifying aura descended. The bloodstains on the legendary three-eyed eagle's body suddenly burned crazily. The purple gold flames instantly engulfed it. The steel bars broke inch by inch. As for the wounds on the legendary three-eyed eagle's body, they rapidly healed under the burning flames. Its weak aura also began to recover rapidly. That's the Eagle Master? The Meteor sect leader, Shifeng, was shocked. He stood up abruptly. He looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief and rubbed his eyes hard. To be able to heal its own kind with its own strength and aura. Other than the legendary Eagle Master, who else could it be? He had only read about such rumors in some ancient books, but he had never seen it with his own eyes. Back then, when he accidentally caught the legendary three-eyed eagle that was alone, he was overjoyed for a long time. Hence, he specially studied it for a period of time. The noble bloodline power in the Eagle Master was the foundation of the legendary three-eyed eagle tribe. With just a command, thousands of legendary three-eyed eagles would pledge their lives to follow it. For thousands of years, even the ordinary legendary three-eyed eagles were rarely seen in the world of divine ruins, let alone the Eagle Master, a powerful existence that only existed in legends? What? Hearing Shifeng's words, everyone present was shocked. Is Chuyu? No. It's Xuanhuan. It wasn't enough for her to contract with a legendary three-eyed eagle, but she also had an Eagle Master? That was an existence that was on par with them. Now, it had become the contracted divine beast of Xuanhuan. What's the origin of this Xuanhuan? Not only does she have a crimson gold heavenly phoenix, but she also has an Eagle Master of the legendary three-eyed eagle. In the dead silence, someone muttered absent-mindedly. Ordinary people had never even seen a top-notch mythical beast, yet she easily possessed two of them. How is this possible? Some people regained their senses, but they still couldn't believe it. The crimson gold heavenly phoenix is an ancient divine beast, while the three-eyed eagle lord also has a noble status. In terms of preciousness, it's almost impossible to determine which one is better. Logically speaking, these two mythological beasts are extremely arrogant. It would be difficult for them to even form a contract with a human, let alone to serve the same master? Preposterous. Ridiculous. No one would believe it even if he told others about it. But now, everything was happening right in front of their eyes, and they couldn't help but question it. Shuruera also covered her red lips, her beautiful eyes full of shock. No wonder. At that time in the north of the great desolate land, those three-eyed eagles had besieged her. Later, when Chuyu appeared, the matter was smoothly resolved. Almost everyone thought that after Chuyu entered the barrier of the legendary three-eyed eagle, everything pointed to disaster. But in the end, Chuyu still came out unscathed. At that time, all she thought about was the legendary three-eyed eagle that she had lost and regained. She didn't think about what was going on. Now that she thought about it, who else could make so many legendary three-eyed eagles compromise other than the Eagle Lord? This kid actually formed a contract with the Eagle Lord? The corner of Elder Huafeng's eyes twitched violently. At that time he thought that Chuyu had relied on the crimson gold heavenly phoenix to solve the problem, but now it seemed that he was completely wrong. With a few trump cards in hand, wouldn't he be able to use whatever he wanted? To think that he was so nervous and worried at that time. It's the girl. Elder Bo Yin took a deep breath and slowly reminded. Elder Huafeng choked. I know. Since she was willing to summon the legendary three-eyed eagle, it had already proven her identity. Elder Huafeng was about to say something when he suddenly caught a glimpse of Elder Wanzheng, who was in a daze. He didn't seem to have realized what had happened. His face was expressionless and a little stiff. Elder Huafeng coughed and prodded him with his elbow. Hey Wanzheng, are you all right? Suddenly knowing that his disciple had turned from a boy to a girl, this feeling, Xuanhuan? Elder Wanzheng murmured softly. She's Xuanhuan? Elder Huafeng looked at him worriedly. Could it be that he was confused? Don't worry whether it's a boy or a girl, they're all equally outstanding. No, it's actually better than before. Wanzheng, you've made a fortune this time. Putting everything else aside, just these two divine beasts alone were enough to kill everyone in an instant. If they could take such a cultivator as their disciple, anyone would be so happy that they wouldn't be able to sleep for a few days, right? If the disciple was outstanding, the master would also benefit from it, right? But Elder Wanzheng wasn't thinking about that at this moment. He turned his neck and looked at Rongxiu. Ever since Jiang Hetian appeared and pointed out that Chuyu was Xuanhuan, he hadn't done anything. He just sat there as if it had nothing to do with him. Why was he so calm? Elder Wanzheng swallowed his saliva and couldn't help but ask, Rongxiu, is my disciple really your new princess consort? The people of Lingxiao College immediately looked over in unison. I almost forgot. Since this matter had something to do with Rongxiu, he naturally knew about it long ago. Slap. Elder Huafeng slapped himself on the head and gritted his teeth. I see. Why else would Rongxiu care so much about Chuyu? It turned out that Chuyu was his new princess consort. When Rongxiu heard this, he turned his head and smiled. Thank you for taking care of me during this period of time. His voice was low and there was a rare trace of gentleness and affection in it. The few elders suddenly felt as if they had been stabbed by a knife. As for Luo Shirshir and the others who were standing behind him, they were so shocked that they were speechless. When she heard Rongxiu's words, Luo Shirshir suddenly came back to her senses. She looked at Mu Hongyu in a daze and saw that she was staring at the field nervously. She clenched her fists tightly and wished that she could rush forward to help. Mu Hongyu, already knew? Sure. Luo Yinming looked at her worriedly. Tears welled up in Luo Shurshu's eyes. She smiled and shook her head. Suddenly, she felt as if a rock had been lifted from her heart. This was good. You are quite capable. Jiang Hetian was also shocked by the incident with the Eagle Master. He only knew that Xuanhuan had contracted a three-eyed eagle, but he didn't expect him to be so powerful. However, it didn't matter. After all, as long as he exposed Xuanhuan's identity, everything else would be easy. Xuanhuan, what is your motive for deceiving your superiors and concealing your identity? Jiang Hetian questioned in a deep voice. You can even disguise your identity. Who knows if you are doing something shameful? Chu Liwei smiled. I only do things that are shameful. As she spoke, she flicked her wrist and tiptoed, heading straight for Jiang Hetian. Today she was going to let them all clearly understand that she was not to be trifled with. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.